Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We can't go out, man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man, so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
If you had to choose a story from the football weekend to start with, do you start with a winner or with a loser? If you can only pick one thing as the most important thing that you're most interested in talking about, because I was underwhelmed by most of the games, all the home teams winning, until I saw a rookie winning a road playoff game. And not just winning a road playoff game, Stugotz, but winning a road playoff game with no turnovers and no punts. These stats I'm about to read are crazy because road playoff games are obviously hard to win. Only one team did it yesterday, probably broke Mike Ryan's heart. But this is from OptaStats. In NFL history, there have been 3 instances of a team having 0 turnovers and 0 punts in a game behind a rookie starting quarterback, either regular or postseason. All 3 games are Jayden Daniels. Week 2, week 3, and a road playoff game. And then this one is more stunning. From Doug Clawson. Jayden Daniels has more games in his career where his team has 0 punts and 0 turnovers, 3, including the playoffs, than the combined careers of Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, and Patrick Mahomes. Combined. That was stunning to watch yesterday, even if you've been watching Jayden Daniels all year, seeing him go in as an underdog on the road and beating Baker Mayfield in Tampa.
I don't mean to make that less impressive by what I'm about to say, because it is impressive, unequivocally. But the fact that their coach goes for it on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2 almost all the time, even in his own territory, does mitigate how many times they have to punt.
Well, I mean, wouldn't you with that quarterback, though?
Yeah, I might.
Right, yes.
I might. And that's
Yes.
the trend. But this guy, man, including in yesterday's game, time and time and time again, he's going for it. He misses it a couple of times in a row. He goes for it again, and they scored a touchdown pass out of one of those gambles.
To answer Dan's question about winner or loser and what was the biggest story from the weekend, it's always more fun to kind of highlight the losers. And the big loser this weekend was Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert.
Oh.
I mean, you're Mr. Tough Guy. We're going to stop the run. We're going to run the football. And I've got this quarterback that if you were building a quarterback in a lab, this is the guy you would want to be your starting quarterback. And he gives you 3 interceptions in that spot. A terrible job by the Chargers.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I think Justin Herbert had 4 interceptions all regular season.
Yeah.
And he had 3 in one game in the playoffs. Terrible.
Did he have 3 interceptions all season? Was it 3 all season? That's his first 3 interception game ever. I should say, by the way, 2 of those weren't his fault. They went right through the run. I mean, they were just little passes out to the flat.
He throws the ball hard, though.
Yes, he
Sometimes
does.
too hard.
The stats here. This one's
Little
great.
touch.
This one's great, though. This stat here. Are you familiar with the 3 leading receivers for the Chargers on Saturday? Because
one of them's definitely got to be Ladd.
yes, Ladd had 9 catches. So Ladd's the leading receiver, 9 catches for 197 yards. That 3rd and 26 play was crazy after Herbert took 2 straight sacks. The only touchdown the Chargers scored in the game.
Can we trust Houston's defense again?
No.
Where did that come from?
No, that was weird. I don't have a good explanation for you. It was weird to see the Chargers that constipated.
I'd be careful if I'm Kansas City.
But Ladd.
What?
Stugotz minor penalty, 2 minutes.
I was
for
talking
Chiefs talk.
Texans. Texans versus the Texans. Couple of Texans cutting it up. How about that?
The Kansas City Chiefs were originally the Dallas Texans, if you happen to be listening last Wednesday when he made that joke.
Yeah, it's a good joke.
So Ladd McConkey goes 9 for 197, and then the third leading receiver that Justin Herbert threw passes to was Will Disley, 2 for 16. And then he threw 4 passes for 108 yards to the Texans. 108 yards. One of them a pick 6. He's not wrong when he says that was the disaster of the weekend. Do you go winner or loser? Because a lot of people are talking about the Steelers as well. They're talking about the fact that Mike Tomlin is in this area that Jimmy Johnson used to talk about. The enemy of great is good, where you're just sort of stuck with overachieving seasons, and then you get to the playoffs. And rare is that, right? A lot of people are accusing the Steelers of cheating. Of quitting. That is not what happened at the game. The Ravens just leaned on them all game, gutted them, and wore them out. Cam Hayward is not a quitter, but on the first 95-yard drive, because you have to start tackling Derrick Henry, Cam Hayward is already gutted on his own goal line 1 series into the game because of how Baltimore plays football. It's really hard to defend them.
I'd go outside of the pro ranks. Friday's Cotton Bowl between Ohio State and Texas, with Texas driving at the very end, and to have Quinn Ewers' former college roommate come up with a strip sack in an iconic moment for a very prestigious program in Ohio State. I thought that was the coolest moment of the weekend.
Billy, what did you talk about on God Bless Football as the first item of business?
Ooh, the first item of business. Man, you're really putting me through the ringer here. What was the first thing we talked about? The actual first thing we talked about? Like on the day, or like how do we start the show? Am I getting kicked out? I see you fumbling over there. Uh-oh. So I'll just go.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes, rambling.
For the GBF crew.
How many turnovers do the Bills have this year? Because one of the most stunning things of my football lifetime is seeing the reckless coached out of Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. How many turnovers do they have this year? Do they have double-digit turnovers? All of them. I'm not even just talking about interceptions. I'm talking about I don't think that team has double-digit turnovers.
I don't understand. Forced turnovers or like on offense?
No, on offense.
Including fumbles lost?
No, I'm talking about coaching the reckless out of Josh Allen and seeing Josh Allen and the Bills steamroll, the defensive player of the year probably in Patrick Surtain, who allows them to have the best pass rush in the sport, and they just did whatever they wanted in the second half of the football game.
You know what was crazy from that game? Nick Franklin was the first ever rookie-to-rookie touchdown connection in NFL playoff history. That's wild, but then I guess it makes sense because it's hard for rookie quarterbacks to make it to the NFL postseason historically and put up good performances in their first crack at it, but that's wild. The NFL's been around for a while.
The Bills tied the NFL record for fewest total turnovers in a regular season with 8 this year.
And he doesn't get sacked anymore either. And typically guys that depend on their physical ability, that know that they can escape, will hold on to the ball longer, and he does, but it's hard to get home on Josh Allen. I marvel at him. He's getting better and better. And now, seemingly overnight, he's got Jesus hair. And it's just, how do you go up against that? The Ravens-Bills game, that'll be Sunday evening, 6:30. Put the kids to bed. That game is going to be freaking incredible.
Winner takes on the Texans. What? No! They do!
Stugotz minor penalty, 2 minutes for Chiefs talk.
No. He likes Houston in that one.
I have to say, we should all be rooting against Houston just in general, because we can't let them not have the Saturday afternoon playoff window going forward. That was the perfect way to ease myself into the weekend. I was like, oh, thank God, Houston's on. This is a great little, get a little appetizer. I watched the Nickelodeon broadcast. By the way, when the Dirty Bubble got Jim Harbaugh, it was over for the Chargers after that.
Over.
I mean, that was it. Great broadcast. But we can't let them be so good that they're now getting primetime billing. We just can't let that happen.
That Bills-Ravens game is the Chiefs benefiting from what the Patriots benefited from to get 7 Super Bowl wins, where you get the first-round bye, and then you only have to play one good team to get to the Super Bowl. You don't have to play 2 of them. We would like the Chiefs' chances a lot better of getting to the Super Bowl if they had to play both Baltimore and Buffalo in order to get there. But all of us are sitting there saying of both the Ravens and the Bills, both of those teams can be Super Bowl champions.
Sure.
They can beat anyone in the sport in a way that's obvious. They could go into Kansas City. Tell me Baltimore's style isn't suited for a bad weather game wherever it is that you want to play. If you're just, man, I haven't seen Cam Hayward look like he's quitting. The Steelers are getting accused of quitting because the Ravens just leaned on them all game.
Is TJ Watt just supremely banged up? Because he's gone a shocking amount of snaps without registering a stat.
I'd say the last 5 games of the Steelers season, including the postseason, were about as bad of a stretch on both sides that I've seen from the Steelers in a really long time. So, even though the record is the same and the first round playoff exit is the same as a lot of years, this has been a pretty bad collapse. And I will say the schedule did them no favors. They had to play 3 really, really tough games in a short window. But regardless, I don't think that's your excuse. I think, like Mike said, you've got really bad injury luck in a couple key positions, and then some of your best players just not producing down the stretch, and already a really tough offense to produce with a wide receiver that's hurt and also in it sometimes and not in it sometimes. Just a bad stretch of football.
Aaron Rodgers?
No. I think first of all, I think the Tomlin conversation that everyone's going to have today, I don't think he's going anywhere. So I think it's just a waste of time to have that conversation again. But they're probably going to re-sign Russ and just not give him a ton of money is my guess.
Aaron, I feel like that's a slight upgrade over what we have with Russ. It was weird because it was kind of unfortunate. I understand the game plan going in there, and I understand the distrust that Russ kind of built up over these last few weeks. But once they started stretching the field and taking shots down, you kind of started talking yourself back into it. And it was almost like you guys went into this game a little too conservative. But that's kind of how Pittsburgh's been able to.
That's how they want to do it.
Yeah, that's how they get these upsets. I get it. But they did look good when they started stretching the field, and Russ did look accurate going down the field. It was just. I think that they waited too long to trust him.
I know I'm a cheerleader for the Ravens, but I'm really looking forward to the Baltimore-Detroit Super Bowl, which seems preordained. And Baltimore would be my betting pick to be the most likely to get there. The Ravens, you could make a strong argument, have the 2 most valuable players in the entire league. And a Ravens defense that was awful the first half of the season has been great lately. I mean, the Ravens, unlike the opposite of the Steelers, the Ravens are really coming on at just the right time.
To his point, since they moved Kyle Hamilton to safety week 11, the Ravens are all number 1 across the board in all the defensive stats. But what Jessica's saying about that collapse of the Steelers, 4 of their last 5 games, they lost by 14 or more points. 4 of their last 5. They lost 5 in a row by a total of 66 points. They collapsed upon the end of the season. But when Mike mentions TJ Watt, I don't know what he was doing in the game before last, but I thought that the game plan on TJ Watt was just to have him unblocked and let Lamar decide every time, as he decided to tackle Derrick Henry without the ball, to just run around to where he was. And that's how they neutralized him, by just having Lamar Jackson stare at him all game and say, you're the only person on this field who can beat me, because you're the only person on this field who can take this football from me. And if I just do run pass option the entire time, from the very beginning of the game, they had no answers for that, and then Derrick Henry's coming close to 200 yards. Because you can make the argument, based on just statistics, that that's the best rushing offense we've ever seen, where the running backs are disposable. They've got 2 of them that aren't disposable.
This is the most loaded Lamar Jackson team I think I've ever seen. I'm sure that they've had better records, but they're peaking right now. Todd Monken should really be discussed as one of the brilliant minds, because I was convinced they've maximized Lamar Jackson with this Greg Roman style, and Todd Monken comes in and he shows you exactly how talented of a thrower of the football Lamar Jackson can be. They have first-round picks everywhere. Their defense is game. They're going to, I know Pittsburgh scored 14 points, so you can't hold the 13-point benchmark against Lamar anymore. He finally beat a team that scored more than 13, but they scored 14, pretty similar. I think we all have supreme confidence that Buffalo can put up more than 14 points. So we're going to get a lot of questions answered with that game. There's high drama surrounding that Baltimore-Buffalo game because there's so much on the line from a narrative standpoint, and that's as good as sports can get.
Let's play the sound of George Pickens after the game, basically criticizing the Steeler offense that has, I did not have that one today, Mike Ryan calling for Aaron Rodgers as the next Steeler quarterback. Let's hear from George Pickens here.
George, you've been with this offense now for 3 years. Have you seen signs of growth, and how much more does this team still need to grow offensively?
Yeah, I've seen signs of growth for sure. From past, the first year I've been here, just way more growth for sure.
George, does that make you optimistic going forward?
Nah.
Not many people like him.
Oh, my God.
He's unusual, man. Can we play the sound, please, of the Commanders winning the game and the radio call? They went on a doinked field goal, 37-yard field goal from Zane Gonzalez. A lot of people have noticed that he was twitchy right before that. He was doing a lot of playing with his hair, as he often does. And it seems, does he have clinically diagnosed OCD? Because I don't think this is just nerves. He's done this before where he looks nervous if he's not nervous because of the amount that he's playing with his hair. They win the game at the end, and I'd like to hear the radio call of that, please. I'm not sure who these announcers are. Help me out here with the announcers.
They're awesome. I don't know their names, but they're terrific. It's the way you want your local announcers to call a game like this and a play like that.
Zane Gonzalez looking to send Washington into the divisional round. Snap good, hold down, kick on its way. It is good! The Cardiac Commanders are the clutch Commanders. They do it again. We'll see you in Detroit. And Zane Gonzalez kicks in the door and kicks us into the second round of the playoffs.
That is the Commanders Radio Network. Bram Weinstein, London Fletcher, and Logan Paulson on the call.
What you don't see is London Fletcher. Why Bram? Because he doesn't want to step on his call. London Fletcher is fist pumping. He is having a celebration in that booth. It was glorious.
Can I tell you something that happened to me yesterday that made me realize how my viewing habits have changed? Yesterday is the first day in my life that I am watching football games. And while watching football games, Stugotz, because I've always been somebody here recently that's been watching them on red zones the red zone doesn't have commercials, I am legitimately discovering shows for the first time that promote during the NFL games, which is why it is that all of these networks are fighting over the NFL schedule so they can introduce you, of course, on CBS to Hollywood Squares, making
we're doing that again.
Yes, we are making.
Nate Burleson has CBS in the sharpshooter right
now. Yes, Nate
Burleson. He can have anything made.
Nate Burleson can go into any office at CBS and be like, "I'm young, I'm black, and you don't have anything like this on your menu.
I'm good. Just give me everything."
So he's hosting Hollywood Squares, but here, Stugotz, is something I had not noticed before. Special Forces, the world's toughest test. Here is, and can I interest you in some Cam Newton jumping from a boat onto a helicopter. All of this seems a little bit dangerous when I saw it with the sound down, of course. I said to myself,
certain shows that are Fox shows. Like, we all know there's Fox shows.
Was that Billy Baldwin?
There's
Billy.
There's a Baldwin.
A different Baldwin.
Baldwin.
That might have been Steven.
It's Haley's dad.
It's one of them.
Steven.
Wait, Billy, this is like the challenge, but like even more military focused, right?
And with celebrity adjacent people.
So is a challenge.
Yeah, I guess. This is exciting. This is the third
You don't
season
think
of
Bananas
this.
is a celebrity?
It would be weird though. Like it'd be like, look, I don't want to put this out there, but like, what if you were to hear like, yeah, Cam Newton was decapitated by a military helicopter, and like, what? Like, yeah, he was filming a show, and he's just so tall that he stood up on the side of it, and it took off his head.
Wow.
It'd be a terrible way to go, right?
There is precedent for this in show
Mike
business.
Ryan's been wanting to
Also
talk
a
about
waiver.
this. Mike Ryan has been wanting to talk about this.
Decapitated celebrities?
For 6 months. No,
With helicopters?
Helicopter accidents on the set of the movie The Twilight Zone in 1983.
Yeah, you covered it.
It's not a joking matter.
No, it was an impaling.
No.
It was children, wasn't it?
2 children and one movie star, Vic Morrow.
Really?
Yeah, this actually happened. This was a thing that happened, and if you look into it, all sorts of set rules were broken, and all sorts of set rules have now been put in
Did you
place
listen
because
to the
of
Behind
this.
the Bastards episode on it too? It's a good one.
Stugotz.
So that's it? I mean,
Was it John Landis?
Yeah. Wow. Rod
Kinda.
Serling turning over in his grave.
Kind of altered the trajectory of that career. And it was like 3 different directors that got together.
Right.
And when it came time to promote it, none of the other directors wanted anything to do with the project because, the death.
Put it on the poll. Did you love the Twilight Zone at Le Batard Show? Because I did.
I'm still afraid of ceiling fans.
All of its permutations. But Stugotz had a great take last week. Off air. It wasn't something he might have said it on God Bless Football, but he didn't say it here. He just said, you know who doesn't have any stress or pressure headed into the playoffs? Mm-hmm. Todd Bowles.
yeah, I said it here.
You
And then
said
he
it.
gave one interview.
Yeah, he lost another playoff game, and nobody
Yeah.
cares.
Let's play the interview at halftime, though, that suggests that he might sometimes get lost in the weeds on certain things. Todd Bowles is not a great interview. Todd Bowles, in all our lives listening to Todd Bowles usually doesn't say very interesting things, but here's Todd Bowles at halftime not giving you a lot of confidence where he gets stuck in the quicksand.
How do you limit Jayden Daniels?
Got to get him in long third and longer yardage. You got to win first down. He keeps getting out of the pocket to his left, to our left, his left. I mean, our left, his right, and we got to cut that down.
That matters.
It's confusing, though.
That's when I started getting worried for old Bake.
We've all been there.
That's hilarious.
Go ahead and play it again. And this might suggest that the coach of the Tampa Bay Bucks was slightly confused about which direction Jayden Daniels was going all night.
How do you limit Jayden Daniels?
Got to get him in long third and longer yardage. You got to win first down. He keeps getting out of the pocket to his left, to our left, his left. I mean, our left, his right, and we got to cut that down.
Thanks, Todd.
He always looks confused, though. I mean, if you watch Todd Bowles on the sideline, he looks confused the entire game. No coach looks more confused than Todd Bowles.
That's not true. Eberflus.
Oh, that's a good one. But he's a former coach now.
I'm still confused by stage left and stage right. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Our left, his left. I mean, our left, his right, and we got to cut that down.
If you think about it, the left tackle is also the right tackle.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask the group, based on Mike Ryan saying that the best game of the weekend was Friday night, a couple of different questions about college football. I don't know if Ryan Day has changed your appraisal since December 21st, but he's beaten 2 of the top 3 teams in the SEC and also the number 1 team in the country in the last 3 weeks.
Blew him out.
But 2 of the top 3 SEC teams and the number 1 team in the country. I don't know if your opinion has changed on that. You have heard me recently lament. I really don't like any of the measurement systems in sports playoffs outside of basketball for being an accurate measurement, but I do believe that most of us would agree that the 2 teams at the end here are probably the 2 best teams, and I'm just super bummed out that Notre Dame is clearly suffering the ill effects of they shouldn't be playing 15 games a season. They've got almost double-digit people hurt trying to play this game against Ohio State, and so it makes for an imperfect measurement where they're a 10-point or 9.5-point dog playing against an Ohio State team that is healthier than they are.
Yeah, I've been giving that a lot of thought, and you can get really stuck in the mud by also justifying that, well, they don't play a conference championship game, so that's 1 less game. But if they did play the conference championship game, they would have won the conference
Ohio
championship.
State didn't either this year. Yeah.
And they would have gotten maybe a bye week there. But to the original point, yeah, I've never had more confidence, really, I think, in my adult life that the 2 best, say for one of those Alabama-Georgia championship games, these are the 2 best teams in the nation. and one of the teams probably wouldn't have been in a 14 playoff. Notre Dame probably would have. But we have all sorts of questions about Notre Dame. Can they do it? They've done so much for their brand. Marcus Freeman has done so much for himself, particularly with the path that they've taken to get here. We've had 2 great semis back-to-back, which is kind of an outlier historically with the CFP. The semis are usually very underwhelming. So I think also when you look back, once Clemson won that game, committee got it right. Everybody was championing those SEC teams, and the SEC teams did not acquit themselves nicely. The teams specifically that they were talking about being left out did not win their games outside of Ole Miss. I think that this is a great year 1 for the CFP. There are obvious changes that they're going to make when it comes to the teams that get the bye, but all in all, great experience so far, and I think this is tremendous.
How about Marcus Freeman and the Bears? Huh? I mean, is that a face of a franchise or what? I mean, oh my God. Oh, you don't like this?
No,
Wait,
of course not.
He goes from one team to another one of your teams. I mean,
full disclosure, the Bears are not one of my teams. It's like a bit I've been doing for like 7 years, and I hate the Bears. But he just signed a huge extension at Notre Dame. I think he'd be stupid not to take an interview, but I would be surprised if he left. I think he does like college. But back to Mike's point about like what the Final Four would have been without the 12-team playoff this year. I've seen a lot of takes that like these 2 teams wouldn't have even made the playoff, so it's like devaluing the playoff system, like devalues conference championship games, blah, 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 blah. I think it's fairly shouldn't be controversial to say that the top 4 of this final playoff ranking would not have been the top 4 if there was a 14 playoff. The playoff committee changed the way they address conference championship games this year because of the bye weeks and the 12-team playoff. So while the final ranking, I think it was Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, they were the top 4. They were also the 4 teams that played in the SEC and Big Ten championship games. I don't think that would have been the Final Four if we didn't have 12 teams. It's up for debate who the 4 would have been. Obviously, Oregon would have been in there and Georgia would have been in there. But I could have seen Texas, Notre Dame be the other 2. I could have seen maybe you make a case for Penn State. I just don't think they would have picked the 4 teams that we just saw play on conference championship weekend in the playoff. And so I've seen that take a lot, and I just don't necessarily agree with it.
I'm just really excited that we have a championship game in which both these coaches and these programs have proven a lot just to get here because their path has been pretty crazy. Ohio State erases a loss that they had to Oregon and totally throttled them. So entering a game, I don't think I've ever really had that much respect for 2 teams playing for the top prize.
I think the college football playoff totally got lucky to end up with what is a really, really attractive championship game. Notre Dame was seeded 7th. Ohio State was seeded 8th. They were so low, they had to prove that they deserved this. If you go by the top 4 seedings playing out, we would have had an inordinately less attractive championship
but the
game.
seeding is wacky, right? It's one of the things they're going to have to change.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's funny that you count it as a strike against. I actually see like this result like saying like, well, no, feather in our cap. That's why we expanded it.
But Mike, going into the playoffs, no one thought Ohio State was the 8th best team in the country. Everyone knew they were better than that.
But you have to see it according to the regular season. In Ohio State, they had a huge stinker in their last week. I don't think you can account for that when you're seeding a tournament that the best team in the country with the best roster in the country can't beat their rival in the last week of the regular season. Like that's
a bad loss.
That's a bad loss. But I also think Ohio State and Notre Dame, they had the 2 toughest draws in the playoff. Notre Dame had to play against the SEC champion. They won. Then they had to play against the Big Ten runner-up. They won. Now they get to play in the championship game. They also had to play Indiana, obviously, which was a blowout.
I mean,
Ohio State had to avenge their loss against Oregon. They had to beat a top 3 SEC team, and then they had to beat Texas, which was the SEC runner-up.
For all the crap that Kirk Herbstreit gave Indiana after they lost, look at Indiana's season. They have 2 losses. The team's playing the final game of the season.
But they were totally outclassed.
Jessica mentioned before the show today, Stugotz, this shouldn't surprise us too much, that she rewatched the watch. She rewatched the Notre Dame game just because it was one of the highlights of her life. The reason that I did not just kick her out of the room, though, because I believe that she's got to stop breaking this rule around here that we've had for a long time of telling people when something's a bit. Like she's the only one who does it. We pride ourselves on. There are things here. There are a number of things. I could shock you right now by giving you any number of things that people think are a bit that wasn't a bit and think that people who think things were a bit.
We should do this one day.
Yeah, but this bit started before before I started working here. This is a bit that started the double doink season when the Bears were actually good. So this predates me being on the show. I feel like I should be this is a me bit, not a show bit.
Grandfathered bit.
I just don't think we should be telling. I think we should keep things
I'm just
mysterious.
sick of like people texting me Bear stuff. Honestly, like this is for
You
my
did it to
personal
yourself.
peace.
I mean,
I did, and I'm
know.
a Steelers fan. It was a tough weekend for me. I'm not a Bears fan. The Bears stink.
I think Tomlin's going to the Bears. I mean, how about that?
I mean, honestly, that might not be the word.
Is Steelers fan a bit or that's real?
No, that's real.
Okay.
I have one NFL team, guys.
And Notre Dame?
Notre Dame's real. I
Clemson,
graduated
though.
from Notre Dame. I went to Clemson for 1 year.
That's a bit.
But
or
I don't
not?
really root for Clemson that much anymore.
Just whatever it takes to have Al Golden be the head coach of Notre Dame Week 1 next season.
Can you guys
want
get
that.
for me, please, the Wolf Blitzer entertainment system? Greg Cody was being mocked by his son before the game or before the show today because he was saying that Wolf Blitzer has exactly the entertainment system that Greg Cody would have if Greg Cody didn't have a wife who takes care of these things and cares about technology and electronics. That is stunning to see that famed media star Wolf Blitzer doesn't have a better setup than that one.
Yeah. Is that a VCR?
Or a VHS? What is it?
Is that a VCR? Is there a DVD there as well?
Is it a TiVo?
Well, I've got a TiVo.
Looks like a TiVo up top.
Do you use your TiVo?
I do, yeah.
What does it do these days?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you
Same as
what
it always
I'll tell you what I love about TiVo that I don't love about YouTube. My ability to pause and slow down things in football. Like YouTube
Yeah,
and
YouTube's
my
terrible.
Apple
Doesn't
controller
work.
makes that stuff much less fun than it used to be.
Dan, to your credit, like I found that people that have TiVo are like extremely loyal to TiVo. Like they're TiVo lifers. And I'm with you. On YouTube TV, I try to pause and rewind and go back and rewatch plays. It's terrible. It just never works.
I will tell you that it is great fun to have the TiVo on the occasions where I can watch in slow motion Dallas Goddard, stiff arming Valentine 3 different times.
How
on one.
humiliating was that?
Well, not as humiliating as Minka Fitzpatrick getting one of those from Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry did with one what it took Dallas Goddard 3 to do, but Dallas Goddard did.
I'd rather get 1 than 3.
But Dallas Goddard, what he did to Valentine is basically what a father does to his 8-year-old son as a stiff arm. And I love slowing down football and seeing all of the minutia that I don't see when I'm watching it at real speed.
Mike is right, though, about getting 1 as opposed to 3. Just get it over with. All of it. Just put me out of my misery.
It's just one moment. It's Derrick Henry. He does that to a lot of folks. Fine. I'm not going for a 25-yard just joyride as Dallas Goddard just smacks my head.
3 times. Just 3 times hit him in the forehead.
Humiliating.
There were a couple of things like that that I saw this weekend. Stugotz, the Texans D-line mauled the Chargers offensive line. Like I saw the center thrown into Herbert.
I'm done trying to handicap this sport, man. If the Texans if their defense is just going to decide they're going to show up and look like that in that game, no, I'm done. I'm out.
It's hard to handicap, but we can't be surprised that a home team who won their division won a playoff game. I mean,
no.
Home team's winning a game. I'm never surprised.
But wait, Stugotz. I don't believe, first of all, the Chargers were a road favorite. First of all.
I know.
Second of all, there was not a team being doubted more outside of maybe the Steelers because of their last 5 games as being playoff worthy to go on a run, and goes right back to, oh man, that's too easy for the Chiefs. Goes right back to, right now, everyone is saying that's going to be something that is too simple for the Chiefs because nobody believes in the Texans.
Right. Everybody, not everybody, obviously, but I and many, many, many others picked the Chargers to win that game. And the reason Justin Herbert looked so awful, that the Texans had the best cornerback play in a game that I have seen all season.
Stingley is so good.
Yep.
Stingley is so good, and parenthetically, this isn't talked about enough. He's the grandson of the guy, Darryl Stingley, who was paralyzed on the football field. And this guy, 2 generations later, has turned into a legit decoy candidate.
Were the rest of you as stunned as I am and was by the fact that not one but two deflections ended up perfectly intercepted by Texans cornerbacks, where I'm just so used to defensive backs always dropping those interceptions.
I kept thinking my TV kept rewinding back to specific turnovers. I was like, oh, this is a kooky broadcast.
Can we talk
on
about the
Nickelodeon.
Dicker play?
So stupid.
Why does that guy just totally implode in this round of the playoffs? You're on special teams. How do you forget?
Hold on. What was the best part of the Dicker play? Because
He thought it was a Hail Mary.
my favorite part of the Dicker play. So Dicker the kicker gets the field goal blocked, and as it comes down from the sky, he tries to knock it down. It's still in play. All he's done is create a fumble that gets run the other way. But at not knowing the rules,
trying to make a play, man.
Yes. Well, he wasn't trying to make a play.
He heard Boomer and Teej in his head screaming, "Knock it down!"
Stugotz, he wasn't trying to make a play. He was trying to prevent Houston from making a play, and instead made a play for Houston. But not knowing the rules is one thing. He got annihilated as soon as he did it. Like he should have ended up in the concussion protocol after that, just before he got hit, because of the decision that he made. Like, as soon as he makes the decision to knock the ball down, they should have just put him in the concussion protocol.
He was trying not to get hit, and it did not work out that way for him at all.
Such a funny play.
What do we do with Jordan Love? Do we put him in the Justin Herbert class, or do we? I mean, there's more injuries on that Green Bay team.
I was going to say, like, they lost their best playmaker the last week of the season, so not a great.
Yeah, they lost Watson to the ACL. Reed goes out. Dobbs has the rare concussion with the goofy helmet on top of the helmet.
But even so,
Mike, they were down their top three receivers, their center, and their two left guards.
But he was also really bad too.
I mean, Mahomes would win that game.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
You okay? Greg, I had an idea here that I wanted to get your thoughts on. It's an idea I haven't shared with anyone yet. What if the fans, right before the playoffs, could vote out a team that is limping into the playoffs and vote in a team that got really hot at the end of the season but didn't make the playoffs?
I think that's a brilliant idea, okay? A brilliant idea.
Thank you.
And here's my immediate example. You vote out Pittsburgh, which limps in on a 4-game losing streak. You put in Joe Burrow and the Bengals, the best, arguably the best quarterback in football this season.
But hang on, like, Pittsburgh should get like a draft pick out of this, right?
We'll give him a third round.
Are all the teams in the league voting, or just the teams not in the playoffs?
I think the fans should vote. That's what I think.
Can I vote out Kansas City?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
not?
you can. You have a vote. You can vote. Well, no. If you win the division, it has to be a wild card team.
My friend, you haven't just opened up a can of worms. You've opened up a can of anacondas.
It is problematic if somebody hacks the voting.
Wouldn't it just be the Cowboys end up in every year? Like that? We
well,
can't have
no,
that.
but this is Stugotz has been trying to get the Bengals into the playoffs for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
He's tried harder than anybody who plays for the Cincinnati organization. He's just desperate for Joe Burrow to be in the playoffs.
I was asking Chris Sims if he'd be surprised at certain AFC teams and if they made it to the Super Bowl, and he said he would be surprised by all the teams with the exception of the big three, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bills. And then I asked him, what if the Bengals made it? Would you be surprised if they made it to the Super Bowl? And he said no.
I feel like we're doing the same thing we did in college football with Alabama, where, like, I got a whole season of samples selection. Like, Bengals were not very good this year, or else they would have made the playoffs.
I mean,
the offense was great.
Joe Burrow wins that game.
Yeah. They started off 1-4.
Derrick Henry would have 350 yards.
Let me ask Greg the question. Did I hear you correctly? Did you say that you would make the Ravens the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl?
I might right now, yeah.
Might or would? Like, might. Yes, we all know what the 5 best teams are in the sport. We've been watching all season, and they're clearly a cut above. You saw it the first week. You saw it during these playoffs.
Yeah.
Stugotz. You saw Denver was really good all season, and Buffalo ends up just dragging them. Pittsburgh limped in, but Baltimore ends up up just in a way that from the very first drive of Baltimore, where they go 95 yards down the field, and I'm looking at the Steelers, and I'm like, good God, they're exhausted already. It's been one drive into the playoffs because they just keep getting punched in the face. And I would imagine, although everyone listening to this respects the Rams, I would imagine that everyone expects Detroit to do the same thing after a bye, to show you again that they are the best team. Why are you making the Ravens? Is it because of the improvement of their defense since Week 11?
Yeah, my 5 Super Bowl favorites right now in order are Baltimore, Detroit, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Philadelphia.
Be careful on that limb.
And for reasons I said, they have the 2 best players. They have the 2 most valuable players in the league, Baltimore, in my opinion. And the defense right now is as good as anybody in the league. That's a combination that can't be beaten.
Can you guys answer a couple of questions for me? Because I was legitimately surprised that Baltimore lost 5 times this season. I think, and this has been a problem they've had for a couple of seasons, I think they may have had a 10-point lead in all of the games. The reason I know Buffalo is good, obviously their record is good. Obviously they've been the division leader. But the reason that I know Buffalo is good is because they never get beaten by a lot. No. When Buffalo loses, give me the last time Buffalo loses one of these stinkers where you're like, they've lost by double digits. Or how many times in the last 3 seasons is Josh Allen out of a football game?
They lost at Baltimore 38-10. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Sorry, Billy.
That's the one, right? So if I go over the last 3 seasons and look at Josh Allen's games, he's in all but one of them. He's in all the games he's played for 3 seasons except one game. I know Detroit had that one game. Didn't they go to San Francisco and lost 35-9 as well? Baltimore can do that to anybody, Stugotz. I don't know what you do.
Detroit last year against San Francisco? No, there was the Ayuk crazy catch. Detroit was hanging around.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm not talking about the playoff game. I'm talking about either last regular season or this regular season. Detroit went to San Francisco and lost 34-9, didn't they? There was some score like that. I think I've got that right. The Baltimore Ravens are wildly frustrating to play if you're the defense, because when they're in 3rd and short, you got no chance. You can't. You just desperately want them. We were talking about Washington, Jayden Daniels always going for it. If you're the defense, you always want them to punt because you're terrified of what they're going to do. You're so thankful as a fan to get them in 4th down.
Right.
And get them to actually concede the punt, because you don't want them going for it on 4th and 8, 4th and 6. You don't even want. You're so risk averse as a fan. You respect so much the quarterback and the offense that you don't want the probability that you will get very good field position at their 40. You'd rather have the punt and start at your 20 than deal with, I don't want to be faced with having to stop this person on 4th and 6.
Both those teams Sunday evening. I mean, Buffalo's elite at short yardage. I think 16 for their last 19. And in fact, did anybody else scream, no, what a stupid play when they went for it on 4th and 1, and it wasn't just a Josh Allen keeper? And then magic happens where the catch is even somehow better than the throw with Ty Johnson in the back of the end zone to get his knee down and not have his feet touch out of bounds. Even when they call bad plays, they find a way to do it. This is one of the most eagerly anticipated games I can ever remember in the postseason.
And now Lamar Jackson has in Zay Flowers and what I would call a developing elite receiver, which he hasn't always had the first few years of his career. So that's a fully flowering offense.
Not sure if he's playing. It's not clear.
Right,
I would say this is the most.
They have other wide receivers that have gone in the first round. They've done such a great job loading that team up. It's incredibly loaded across that entire offense. He's got so many weapons, and he's rewarded the confidence that franchise has given him by adapting to this brand new OC, having more of an air raid mentality. It's just such a freaking good team. There's no excuse.
Sometimes your gut instinct when something happens is the right one, and we all said this when they got Derrick Henry. We were like, this team's going to be impossible to stop in the playoffs. They are going to run people over because if you try to stop Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson will just run it 6 times in a row on you. And if you try to stop Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry will just run it 6 times in a row on you. And like that's just what they're going to do in this playoffs, and I don't know who's going to stop them.
Derrick Henry could have been available to anybody for 1 year, $10 million.
He was available to anyone. Yes, he
Crazy.
was. Yes. It sounds like we're putting the Ravens in the Super Bowl. They have to go to Buffalo and Kansas City.
Well, this is the most anticipated playoff game since Buffalo played at Kansas City, and you had that game of 13 seconds at the end of the game to see. I think this is the biggest one since then. It's pretty rare for you to know going into an NFL game, those two teams can very easily beat all of the other teams in the sport and win the Super Bowl. You just don't get many games like that feels like a Super Bowl before the Super Bowl because you know that both teams are capable of winning the Super Bowl. Because the things that they do, you have to understand, Denver has, because Surtain is so good and in general their defensive backfield is so good in Denver, Denver had the best pass rush in the league, which was totally neutralized by Buffalo just running the ball again and again during that game. To have teams that can physically on offense do what Baltimore did, I will say it again about Cam Hayward because I was startled by it. I was startled to see a defensive tackle on the first drive of the game taking so many punches from Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in that offensive line that people would accuse the Pittsburgh Steelers of quitting because anybody would look like they're quitting if they keep getting hit by that for 95 yards. It's what would look. I objected to something that Jessica said last week because I don't love accusing teams of quitting or not quitting, or because I don't think we can do it with our eyes in that sport. But Baltimore can make anyone look like that.
I feel like the Baltimore-Buffalo game is the springboard to the team that's going to win the Super Bowl. In a season where Kansas City does not seem as strong as it did the past couple of years, in a season where Detroit hasn't won anything since 1957, and typically teams go to the Super Bowl and lose before they win, this just seems like Baltimore-Buffalo is the game that's going to catapult the championship.
Lamar Jackson does have a chance here, Dan, to erase everything. Meaning, if he can do this on the road against Josh Allen, on the road against Patrick Mahomes, go to the Super Bowl, beat the Lions or the Eagles, let's say. It doesn't matter who he beats. Once he gets through that in the AFC, he has a chance to get rid of all the doubters. No one will ever say, do it in the postseason again. There is I don't think he's going to get it done, but there is a massive opportunity for Lamar Jackson here.
When Greg Cody mentions the Detroit Lions not winning anything since 1950, I saw Will Manso put out the stat that Jayden Daniels was 12 days old the last time the Dolphins won a playoff game. Are you guys familiar with the longest droughts in the sport when it comes to not winning a playoff game? Do you guys know the numbers off of the top of your head? Because I didn't talk about the Dolphins in the local hour, but I want to get to what happened with Tyreek Hill here recently. The Dolphins have the longest drought without winning a playoff game. It's 24 years, almost a quarter of a century. Right after that, it's the Raiders, 22 years. And then you got to go to Jets and Bears, 14 years.
Yeah, we're not last. Yes.
The sport legislates equality. They make it so if you're bad, you get rewarded. It is breathtaking that the Dolphins have not won a playoff game in 24 years, the longest streak in the NFL. Now, the Bills went 17 years without making the playoffs. The Lions had this reputation for a long time, and it's a little bit confusing to watch the Lions and the Bills be an overwhelming kind of great, and to have the Dolphins be out of a playoff victory for 24 years.
But it kind of makes sense, right? Like it's where we are with the Steelers at the moment, which is the Dolphins for a long time were in just good enough land, right? Where they weren't going to get a high draft pick, and they were going to be just good enough to maybe make the playoffs or maybe just be the first team out of the playoffs. The ones that get rewarded are the teams that are like historically bad because they get the number one picks, and then you have all the times in the NFL worst to first from one year to the next. So you can win a playoff game and have then like a drought before and a drought after. The Dolphins are just always kind of like in purgatory where they're not good enough to do anything but not bad enough to get a good pick. And then the one pick that they had recently was Tua, and then he's not been healthy, so he's not good enough to get you into the postseason, and he's not bad enough to get you a first-round pick.
Also, in that time span, a strange proclivity to enter the wild card round with a backup quarterback. The Matt Moores, Skylar Thompson games. Like, what do you want me to do? And last year, you feel good about your offense. Well, we got ourselves in a position where we're opening things up in sub-zero temperatures against Kansas City. So, really, I think the only game out of that tenure when they've been in the playoffs where they might have been favored, and I have to look up the line when they hosted Baltimore with Chad Pennington at quarterback, but they're supposed to lose all these games once they get in there because there's enough context, and the line is pretty overwhelming at that point.
Yeah, you could make an argument for all the things we mentioned that the Miami Dolphins are a cursed franchise, still paying off karma for winning those 2 Super Bowls in a row, including a perfect season. It's literally a fact to say that the Miami Dolphins have been an irrelevant franchise this century. Okay, ever since 2000, it's been stumbling and bumbling, and they just have done nothing right. And it's Dolph fans are as frustrated as any, and I know you're a Jets fan. Mm-hmm. Dolph fans are as frustrated, I think, as any fandom in pro sports, with reason.
The 10 years of difference, though, is startling when I say the Dolphins haven't won a playoff game in 24 years. The Jets haven't won one in 4. So eager to get back to those times. Interviewing Rex Ryan to see if they could get back to the time when they won playoff games 14 years ago.
He's not getting that job.
That's great.
That would be something else. I think that the other comparison between the Dolphins and the Jets is that they have done the thing where they've either, not tanked, but been bad enough to get a top 5 quarterback pick. And both times, I'm not comparing Tua to Zach Wilson. I think Tua is much, much, much better. But that's where the frustration is, right? Like the Steelers, they had a first-round pick that they used on a quarterback, but there's a difference between like using your 20th pick on the wrong quarterback and using your 5th or 3rd or 1st pick on a quarterback.
The frustration is whiffing on Zach Wilson and getting it right with Sam Darnold, but he gets it right in Minnesota and not New York.
Right, that's even more frustrating.
We can't develop quarterbacks.
It seems even longer than 24 years because my memory of that Lamar Smith game was running to my dad's car so I could hear it on the radio because it was blacked out locally.
Yes.
So we were running to our radios to listen to that last win locally. There wasn't a bar. There were blackout restrictions. No one who outside of people that were there covering it and they're in attendance actually has vivid memories of that play unfolding live.
Well, I was there, and the reason that I say it is only
you were there for that, huh?
Because of the following. Please look up for me, Chris. Look this up for me. Please give me Lamar Smith's stats from that football game, because this is what happened in the grainy memory of Dolphin fans 24 years ago, the last time they won a playoff game. Lamar Smith carried the ball so many times in a constipated Dave Wanstead offense where he just wanted to get 4 yards at a time all game and punt and punt and punt to hide his quarterback, that the next week when Lamar Smith tried to play another playoff game, his body wasn't working. Their running backs, they're running.
He had 40 carries.
Look at the stats between one, but look at the stats between 40 carries and but look at the next week against the Raiders when they went to play the Raiders, and he had like 6 carries for 9 yards because his body no longer functioned because they made him carry the ball 40 times in a game. Lamar Smith, like, what kind of offense is that?
I mean, he had 208 yards.
What kind of offense is that for your Miami Dolphins when the best thing this century in the playoffs is handing the ball 40 times to Lamar Smith?
Chris has a stat. This is unbelievable.
8 carries for 5 yards the next week.
Because his body
He's out of gas.
He averaged 100 yards per game in the playoffs.
27-0 they lost.
Is it crazy for me to say, and I'm trying to be the positive force here, everybody's
Really?
down on the Dolphins. Is it crazy for me to say, yeah, sure, they haven't won a playoff game in 25 years, 24 years, whatever, right? But they had that 70-point game. I mean, you can't take that 70-point game.
Now the Broncos are in the playoffs.
And the Broncos are in the playoffs, and Russell Wilson was a playoff quarterback for another team. So they put up 70 points against 2 playoff forces that day.
It was a wake-up call for the other teams.
It's gone straight downhill since that Denver game for Miami, and only uphill for Denver since that game.
Would you trade it, though, Dan? Would you say, we don't want the 70-point game, we'll take the playoff appearance? I don't know. Billy's saying no.
That 70-point game, I felt alive. I felt something that day. And really, that one game carried us for the rest of the season. Because you always thought, you know what? 70 points in a day. This offense can do whatever they want. That was our modern-day 1972 Dolphins. Like, growing up, all I ever heard was a 1972 Dolphins, 72 Dolphins, over and over. Why are the Dolphins so great? Oh, because undefeated season 72. And the Dolphins, like, lore my entire life with the Dave Wanstedts of the world who were taking the teams to the playoffs. I was like, this is the franchise with the highest win percentage ever. These are the Miami Dolphins. It's like they went undefeated, only undefeated season ever. And that was just like the identity of the Dolphins is the undefeated season. That 70-point game was the identity of the Dolphins because you always thought, you know what? What if?
Which moment, since they haven't had playoff wins in that span, which moment is bigger in the eyes of Dolphins fans? The Wildcat game or the 70-burger?
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Best memory for Dolphins fans this century.
At Foxborough?
How about the Camarillo touchdown that prevented them from going winless? I mean, that was a big one.
I think the biggest moment of the century is Gronk falling down at the goal line trying to
the Fail Mary.
Trying to tackle Drake.
Doesn't NFL Network use that play as like their rejoin? So like they have like the graphics of like the X's and O's running around like behind the logos of like one of their shows, and it's that play. Yeah. Where the Dolphins are scoring the touchdown and Gronk is like tripping over himself.
I want to get the expertise of Greg Cody of the Miami Herald here as it relates to Tyreek Hill and Drew Rosenhaus saying that Tyreek Hill is fully committed to the Dolphins when we all saw it. He is not.
Right.
Like we all heard him after the game, even if it's just emotions. And I've said before that the time to talk to players about whether they'd like to be on another team or are quitting is immediately after the season ends in the emotion of a disappointing season. Right. What did you make, Greg, of after a season of frustration for Tyreek Hill, after a lot of issues off the field and some general turbulence about his temperament and how much he wants to be here, a lot of questions being asked. Drew Rosenhaus comes out, his agent Drew Rosenhaus comes out and says he's fully committed to the Dolphins, and then sort of walks that back as well when they asked some follow-up questions, because they just want they just want to put the mess away for a while, so that if they do move him, he has more value than he would if everybody knew that he was upset. But everybody does know he's upset.
Yeah, it's a snake bit season for Tyreek Hill. Keep in mind it began before opening day with him being handcuffed by cops outside the stadium for reasons that were very dubious and unjustified. But he had a bad year. Let's face it. He seemed a step slower. 2 missed 6 games. It was just a nightmare season for him. And the fact that he would say, "I'm out, bro," did not surprise me. And the fact that he would later walk it back through Drew Rosenhaus did not surprise me either. It's not the first time that Tyreek this season has either said or tweeted something on social media that made you go, and made him explain himself. He's a very mercurial, volatile personality. And, you could make an argument that it's sort of unbecoming of a team captain to put himself in that role where he's saying things that he later has to walk back. I think he was super dissatisfied this season with everything about the Dolphins, from the way their defense evaporated from what they had last season. Their running game largely disappeared. Raheem Mostert disappeared. It was just a nightmare season for an offense that was super exciting last year. I think he'd rather be traded, but I also think that he can be talked into returning, and he'll be fine.
Stugotz, I'm curious whether you agree with what I'm about to say. I've made this reference a few times. The terrible movie Waterworld, an international legendary flop according to everyone else, but I will always stop on it if it's on my television at any point.
Really?
And in a movie about there is no land, everyone is at sea and supplies are scarce, Dennis Hopper is overseeing a floating barge of an empire that is rusting, and there is a scene at one point when fire goes down to the bowels of the ship where there is a very old, skinny man on a raft on oil. And as the fire comes and is going to blow up the man who has been living in the oil on the raft, clearly emaciated, he says, as the fire arrives for the explosion, "Oh, thank God," because he just wants his life to end. He doesn't want to work anymore. I thought to myself, when Deshaun Watson re-injured his Achilles, he's like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to
get out of here.
I don't want to do any of this anymore. This is a career-ending injury. You can't re-injure your Achilles and come back from that.
Oh, Browns
I'm
fans.
just like, I'm thinking to myself that Deshaun Watson is somewhere relieved that he doesn't have to go do that anymore.
But do you know how he possibly re-aggravated the injury? Browns fans have tracked down a video in which he's doing a little bit of a TikTok dance with his girlfriend, not wearing the boot the way that the doctor would recommend it, and they have now fantasy booked not just drafting a quarterback with their top 2 pick, but also getting out from this guaranteed contract because Deshaun Watson did not follow doctor's orders.
That would be something, huh? As punctuation, if that because you heard me obsess about this last week, but it's just not something that you see very often. Everyone's dying to have a quarterback. This was a young quarterback in his prime, and pretty clearly, if it wasn't his body, it was his mind that just totally unraveled in a way. Is he even 30 yet?
I think he's 29 or 30. Do you think the guy who monitors Deshaun Watson was so thrilled? Don't put on the boot. Dance without the boot. Please dance without the boot. And then he dances without the boot, and they're celebrating. Are they not?
Yes.
Because that's what they want. That's what they've been looking for. Whoever has that job has been waiting for that moment for a couple of years now. We finally got it.
The Browns absolutely put on staff payroll somebody to just watch for how do we get out of this contract.
Yeah. I find Deshaun Watson to be a real challenge to human nature and to the best part of me, because part of me wants to feel sorry for the guy. Part of me really does want to feel sorry for the guy, but he's such an unsympathetic victim because of everything he's been through. I find it difficult. How am I supposed to react as a caring human being to this man suffering another Achilles tendon injury? I'm conflicted. I honestly am. I don't know. I mean, how should you feel when Deshaun Watson, after everything he's put dozens of women through, for things that were in the headlines for the past 2-3 years, how are you supposed to feel when this guy just can't catch a break on the field? I mean, I am conflicted about it. I don't know.
It's bad for everybody, but worse for his victims than him as a victim.
Absolutely. That's why I say he's the least sympathetic victim in the world.
Yeah, exactly, Greg. This is how you should feel.
Me.
Yeah, that kind of nails it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it, Roy.
Well, man suggests indifference. I'm sure that
There's some people that are being like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of people are enjoying
deserve
that.
But do it
More
under a
than that,
table.
yes.
But do it under a table.
a lot of people are gloating. There's no question about it. And the victims certainly are entitled to gloat. They've paid the pain to be entitled to gloat. I don't know whether somebody like me or you or another fan should feel good about gloating.
Like over-the-top celebration is what you're
I don't
saying.
know.
Right.
I just don't know.
You also don't know whether Carson Beck is good. The Miami Hurricanes are said to have been paying either between $3 and $4 million for a quarterback that's coming off of an elbow injury, who turned the ball over plenty in Georgia, who did not have the benefit of Bowers always being open at tight end, did not have a good offensive line at Georgia either. You've been asking the question, is Carson Beck good? Which is not something I could have imagined even 4 years ago. even 4 years ago, I could not have imagined that Greg Cody would be asking, is a quarterback that a college is paying between $3 and $4 million for
a Georgia quarterback?
Is that quarterback good? Like the Cam Ward was
SEC champion.
Cam Ward was 1.6, 1.5 million they got for Cam Ward. The prices are going up fast in college football.
They are.
But the big difference is I saw Cam Ward play in college. I knew Cam Ward was good, and I thought the Canes would make Cam Ward even better, and they did. I'm not certain about Carson Beck.
Yeah, you mentioned Cam Ward, and that's where I think a lot of people are viewing this through this prism, which is like a weird moving of the field goal post, because let me tell you something. Undoubtedly, Carson Beck enters this program with way more accomplishments and credentials than Cam Ward did. Cam Ward, people like to retroactively make of course they did great with Cam Ward. They had all sorts of questions about Cam Ward, and you were one of the few that actually watched him at Washington State. Not a lot of people did. I think I understand the questions, especially how can you not be nervous about a guy that has an arm injury when his position is quarterback? I will say Miami does feel good about it all depends on who you ask, but Miami does feel good about where he is, his ability to come back in time for fall camp. And I will remind everybody in the listening audience that Brock Purdy was the betting favorite for NFL MVP 6 months after he had this surgery.
Right. Yeah. No, I get that. But when I say is he that good, I'm thinking of the 12 interceptions. I'm thinking of Georgia Bulldogs fans not lamenting that he's gone.
He does turn the ball over a lot. So did Cam.
Right.
So when I hear that criticism about Carson, I'm like, well, do we remember the Cam experience?
Right.
There was one game against Alabama where he threw 3 picks, but I also think he threw for 450 yards in that game.
Well, there was a stretch of 4 games where he threw 9 picks. He was on a real bad, whatever the opposite of on a roll is. He was on a roll turning the ball over. But I feel like, Mike, if you heard that Florida State was paying Carson Beck $3 million to be their quarterback next year, you'd be like, good luck with that. And I'm not even necessarily saying that he's going to be terrible and awful. I think he has more upside than a lot of quarterbacks, but also coming off of a major surgery after the season he's had, I think a lot of reasons for concern.
For me, it's entirely that about the arm injury, but let's look at what the sports books are telling us. Presently second to win the Heisman next year behind Arch Manning. He's at plus 700. Some books that have begun taking action on the 2026 NFL draft have Carson Beck as the number 1 overall pick next year. He entered this season, consensus, number 1 overall pick. Yes, threw some picks. Cam does that too. Also made a ton of plays. And his team, I think, led the SEC in drops. His wide receiver situation was real bad this year. And he doesn't need to be Cam Ward. This is what people need to get out of their mind. Miami was entering the season with Emory Williams at quarterback. We saw for a half what that looked like.
Awful.
They needed to do something drastic. And the thing that they did was get the top player available in the portal. You can have questions about him. I'm not pushing back on that. But the gulf between a healthy Carson Beck and Emory Williams is immense.
Huge upgrade. And if you're a Canes fan, if you're Mario Cristobal, perfectly entitled to say, hey, for the second year in a row, we got the big guy in the portal. We got the big hit out of the transfer portal. Right now, that's absolutely true. But I just don't know that based on his track record, you can't expect another Cam Ward season, which you've mentioned.
Also, Carson Beck had the second highest odds to win the Heisman this season going into the year. I appreciate your respect for the sports books, but projecting next year's Heisman Trophy winner a year ahead of time doesn't necessarily mean that that's a sure thing.
Understood. It's all based on action, but I would say the people that handicap this sport are a little bit more bullish on it. And ultimately, Miami was at a situation in which a lot of quarterbacks were going off the board. Mateer goes to Oklahoma. Wait, are we really going to enter this season with Emory Williams as quarterback? Those were real questions that people around the program were asking. Then, not 24 hours later, did they come away with a guy who, according to all the websites that put this together, was the number 1 guy available in the portal any position?
Greg, you just mentioned the idea of him being Cam Ward. Let's stop that now.
Ooh, pump the brakes.
I mean, they're paying twice as much for someone who will not be as good as Cam Ward, and that's no slight on him in any way. That's not what I just saw. Please don't underestimate the wasted season the University of Miami just had
Right.
with that as its quarterback. Like it's not going to look like that again.
Don't read into the money as well, because the money just continues to go up.
Yeah, that's
and it's
exactly
going to
right.
continue to
Right.
go up.
Well, but where is this part headed, though? Because there were reports, and you guys have told me that they were credible reports, that Ewers was being offered $6 million to skip the NFL draft, and there's going to be some of this going forward, right? Some boosters are going to want to compete with the NFL for, we can pay you more. But I want to ask, where's this headed if we're already at $3 or $4 million for a quarterback coming off of elbow surgery?
I can explain why we're there. It's the rev share. Programs are taking into account the rev share. So a team that would really struggle to raise $15 million in NIL, like Duke football, has that base floor, looks at the available quarterbacks, gets Mensa from Tulane, offers him $3 million. That's how they're budgeting the rev share. That's what happened to the market. Out of the gates, the Tulane quarterback gets twice as much because a team that would never be able to compete in the NIL space gets rev share. So what does that do? You would think that the rev share would maybe take some off the plates of the boosters. No. It's rev share plus NIL, and that's what's happened in the marketplace.
Emory Williams is white, huh? I haven't been this shocked since Khalil Green. I mean,
put it on the poll,
Well,
please.
Jonathan Coachman.
At Le Batard Show,
Hey.
Are you shocked that Emory Williams is white? At Le Batard Show. You mentioned rev shares. Jess, this is the actual reason that you should be most excited about what's happening at Notre Dame right now. Last time Greg Cote was on with us, Greg Cote was saying, like James Franklin, we should take away Notre Dame's independence, that they should have to play in conferences with everyone else. Notre Dame is getting $20 million they don't have to share with anybody because they've gotten this far. That is an amazing advantage to have, that you are the only school that can get all of the profit from your winning. This can be a stepping stone for Notre Dame to be even more aggressive around this stuff because they're getting richer than other schools are by a factor of like 10 and 12, given how these conferences have to share money.
Yeah, I would also say that there's also a lot of money that Notre Dame isn't getting from not being in a conference. Like they have a television deal that isn't equal to the Big Ten's television deal. So there is money that they do leave on the table in that way by not being in a conference. I think the best part about Notre Dame's independence is everyone crying about it 24/7. If you are still crying about Notre Dame not being in a conference, I'm sorry, you are not allowed to complain about conference realignment then. Either conferences are ruining the sport or what, you can't have it both ways, okay? You just can't. It's the most tired argument in the world at this point.
I complain about both. I complain about Notre Dame being an independent and the willy-nilly of conference
Right,
realignment.
then you should be probably, it would make more logical sense to be I understand why a school would want to be independent in football, given what the conferences have done to a lot of historic rivalries and to making this completely uneven scheduling model and just these massive bloated conferences that we've argued about all season as not being fair and not enough this and that and the conference championship games. What's the point of the menu? I don't understand how you could think both at the same time.
I think that there are several programs in this country, 8 or 10 come to mind, who should be looking at Notre Dame and going, hey, what about us? Alabama, Texas, Ohio State, maybe even Georgia now, arguably even Miami. There are several programs in this country that could go, we're of the stature of Notre Dame. Let's get ours. And if that begins to happen, then it's just more anarchy than we're seeing now. It's more dishevelment. It's more change for the sake of change.
Oh, my God, college football, anarchy and dishevelment and unorganization. That would be crazy if college football was.
It's got to be so bad for that sport,
weird
right?
And James Franklin talking about this in his press conference last week, I would just rolled my eyes so hard. He's like, everything should be even. What are you talking about? College football, everything should be even? Okay, let's remind you of that when you're giving part of your conference revenue to all the bottom feeders in the Big Ten and complaining about it. Nothing's ever been even in the sport. Nothing will ever be even in the sport. Even among the power conferences, they play different number of conference games. What are you talking about? It's college football. There's no way to make the playing field even, and that's also, not the point of the sport.
Can you guys get for me the origins of willy-nilly? I don't know where it came from, what it means.
I think he was a seal.
Why?
I think you're right.
Why we say willy-nilly? Do you have any explanation for what willy-nilly is? What?
I enjoy saying it. It sounds like
It's
an
fun.
sounds like an ice cream treat or something. You know, I just enjoy the words together.
Dan, you mentioned, and I think I generally agree with your sentiment, but last year being a wasted year in terms of how it finished and how it felt, I think you're right to argue that. But remember the quarterback narrative around Mario Cristobal entering this season. He was a quarterback killer. Now, back-to-back years, his process has resulted the biggest get at that position.
Aren't we like a week removed from like writing love letters to Cam Ward and saying we'll remember him forever as the greatest Hurricane, and now we're calling it a wasted season and we should move on from him?
Oh, I'm saying it's
That's not a slight at Cam.
I'm saying it's a wasted season just because you got the best season I've ever seen from a quarterback at Miami. You didn't even make the top 12 teams.
Right.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by Venmo.
I came very close last night to having an incredible bad beat story because I'm chasing at the end of the day and I'm having the general sadness of, good God, you got to be kidding me. I'm watching the Utah-Brooklyn basketball game. But the game is tied late. I don't know. Did you guys see this? Utah's obviously terrible. Brooklyn's terrible, although inexplicably, Brooklyn, on a West Coast road trip earlier this year, like won at Sacramento, Golden State, and Phoenix.
That's
somehow.
when you thought they were good, right? I remember
That was last year that I thought they were good when they weren't good.
You learned your lesson.
Yes, they are not good. They are decidedly not good. But at the end of that game yesterday, you've got a tie game. And it's only tied because Utah doesn't have any good players and their lead is leaking because they can't get any good shots the last 2 minutes of the game because they don't have anybody who can get good shots when the game tightens up at the end of the game. And they've got the ball, tie game, 26 seconds left, okay? 26. So you're not going to lose this game in regulation. You've got the ball, you're inbounding with 26 seconds left. Shot clock's 24.
Thank you.
But I'm just laying it out there.
No, I got it.
All of
I
the math.
appreciate the detail.
But here's what happens, though. Sexton and Collier are arguing as they come up the court about who should bring the ball up the court, and they do it so slowly that they get an 8-second violation.
Wow.
They give the ball back to Brooklyn.
That's the Jazz.
Because they're walking down the court and they're not agreeing on who should bring it up.
We have an update on the Lamar Smith follow-up game to that 200-yarder, the last Dolphins playoff win. Mm-hmm. We gave you the stats from his performance against the Oakland Raiders at the time, but there is a great detail.
So he had 8 carries for 5 yards in that game. I've now learned, thanks to Taylor out there crunching the numbers, he had an 11-yard run in that game, which means the other 7 carries were for negative 6 yards. Just a little detail, a little update there.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. That
great.
registers is one of the great Dolphin highlights of this century. We've got a number of things to get to. Stugotz's weekend observations are going to be at some point in the next 2 hours. We've got to unveil finally our statue. We said we were going to make a statue here at the Elser, put it on the roof, something that pointed down at the arena of Pat Riley, to reverse course on my criticism from early in the week where I was saying that
we got it done,
Pat Riley had failed, and all Meadowlark resources have been poured into
pointing. Look, if you look right
Come
now.
on. What are we
If you look
doing?
right now.
I told them I gave it.
Finally closing a loop this company.
This was the big unveiling.
This is good.
Not even the roof.
Yeah.
We did it.
Looks like a carrot.
You can see the arena right behind him. It's a great shot.
Were we not allowed on the roof? Is that what happened? We weren't. We just stopped halfway to the roof and just put one of those car sale inflatable men.
Wacky inflatable arm man.
Thank you.
Is the technical term.
Plus the
appreciate
gust when you get that high up. It's just totally unsafe.
What a tape job, because it's really windy up there.
Yeah, really.
TJ.
So that's not a bronze statue then?
No.
Is that what I'm understanding? Okay.
It does look more like him than the Dwayne Wade statue.
It really does. That is true.
You nailed the face.
Yeah.
Nailed the face.
Good color on him, yeah.
Let's play the stat of the day music here, please.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
This is from Barstool Sports. I knew it, but I didn't remember it, and I had to be reminded of it yesterday. Mike Vrabel has 10. He was a linebacker. 10 career receptions. All of them for touchdowns.
Wow.
It's a good stat.
It's a great
crazy.
stat. Yeah.
That's insane.
10 for 10, huh?
My guess is that you can find some decent players on offense that don't have 10 touchdowns. I just saw McBride have like 100 catches for Arizona, and it took him till the last 2 weeks of the season to get his first touchdown. Do you have a dueling stat of the day that you think can beat that stat of the day, Stugotz?
I do. Do you want the imaging again, or do we just do it right here?
No, right here is fine.
Marcus Freeman has more wins against top 5 teams in the last 10 days than James Franklin has in 14 years.
Join a conference.
Which is the better stat, Greg? Who won today's stat of the day off?
That's a tie.
Really?
Yeah, they're both exceptionally good. They're both exceptionally good.
Thanks for nothing.
Stats.
I mean, the last 10 days.
They're both exceptionally
It's
good.
Lamar Smith.
Agreed.
Greg, you got to pick a side. You can't. It can't be a tie. What's the point of doing that? What's the point of being an arbiter if you're just going to sit there and have no judgment?
Okay, then the winning stat is Marcus Freeman versus Penn State.
You're just lashing out at me for making you do it.
You did that.
Yes.
Hey, accept the consequences.
Yeah. Sore loser.
Take the results and move on.
Really.
Billy, why are you mad at the NFL Network?
Mad is harsh, but they played a dirty trick on everybody yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw.
Put it on the poll, Juju. Do you get mad at dirty tricks?
I mean, it was a little bit of a dirty trick, but so when I go to watch TV, you see the games that are on, right? And they continued yesterday just to play opposite new games, old games of the teams that were coming up later in the day. So I would go and I would be confused because I was like, wait a minute. The Commanders aren't supposed to be playing the Bucs right now, but I want to watch that game. What am I missing? Did I look at the schedule wrong? Like, what happened here? And I kept going back to the NFL Network at the wrong times because they were playing games between when the teams previously played at the times that the current games are going on. And I wonder how many people didn't see, like, in the little corner that it said, like, 2023 or 2024 and watched the wrong games thinking they were watching the right playoff game. Because they were like at a bar and just someone was like, oh, put on the game. They put on the wrong game because NFL Network spent the entire day playing games opposite the present games. They were just old and wrong games between the same teams.
Now, that week 1 matchup, I believe, was in the afternoon, which, if you're still confused at that point, you got bigger problems.
I wish I was watching the 2009 Steelers-Ravens playoff game.
Much more entertaining. Yeah.
Where's Troy Polamalu when you need him?
The games were bad, but the palate cleanser is the way the last one ends. It's not even that game was that great, but the ending of it.
Tonight, yeah, I think the way that they scheduled these out, the 2 primetime games were always going to be the most competitive. Last night lived up. I thought that was a real good game. I looking at the box score, I'm a little confused as to how more points weren't scored because it's not like I know that there were timely stops, especially on 4th downs, but it was a little confusing. And tonight is a really interesting game for a lot of different reasons.
That one happens to me all the time, though. Look at Russell Wilson's box score and tell me how it is they only scored 14 points and why he's being run out of the league. It's because every guy in the league can go 20 for 29 for 250 yards and score 14 points.
Well, they also only had the ball for 20 minutes the entire game, where the Ravens had it for 39. Like, they just didn't have the ball.
That'll do it.
Yep. Yeah.
Also, I think fans, we need to reset our expectations of football games. They can't, if they all were 1 or 2 point games where you're watching someone kick a game-winning field goal or lead a late drive, then those games wouldn't be as special and as meaningful to us. We need to embrace close games when they happen, and when blowouts happen, just understand that that's part of the sport. Not every game's going to be a one-possession game.
You say this, but because of what the sport gives us in the witching hour every week, even if it's Jacksonville and Carolina, I've come to expect that all the games are going to be close. I'm surprised by the blowouts because every time I'm watching football on Sunday, they give me 8 games and they sort of distort it. They fool me
Exactly.
because 4
It's
or 5
selection
of them,
bias. That's
4 or
correct.
5 of them are amazing.
Same with college football. You remember like, wow, that was a crazy game that went into 6 overtimes, and you just forget the fact that there were 45 other games on at the same time that ended with a 21-point difference.
I think, though, one of the things that's absolutely happening to the consumer as this thing continues to get larger and larger is it wasn't enough football for me this weekend. Watching one game at a time is not enough for me. If that game's a blowout, like the 4 o'clock window, this is how spoiled we've gotten. When that 4 o'clock window has 3 games and 2 of them aren't close, I'm bored because I need the stimulation. I need. Give me 9 games, give me stakes, and now I'm not.
But
kidding.
these are playoff games. I understand what you're
tell
saying.
Tell me that this isn't happening to the rest of you. One game on at a time doesn't feel like enough. Tell me it's not happening. Tell me I'm wrong about this.
I disagree because championship weekend is my favorite weekend in the NFL. When it's AFC Championship, NFC Championship, it's the best 2 and the best 2 playing against each other. Watching one at a time, that is the best Sunday of the NFL year. It's better than Super Bowl Sunday. It's better than Wild Card Weekend. It's just simply the best. So this weekend was, it was good. Like
this coming weekend is pretty good.
This coming weekend is the best.
I was going to say this past weekend, it was like Thursday night we got the Orange Bowl, Friday night we got the Cotton Bowl, Saturday all day, Sunday all day, and now we get one more game tonight. Like I know some of the games, like, yeah, you're not locked into every possession. You knew like the Ravens game was over by halftime, but I don't know, like it's not every single football game is going to end in a 1-possession score.
But all the games were bad except the last one.
They were.
Yeah, but I like where Jess is coming from. This sport, out of like the non-combat sports, lends itself to, if you have an advantage tactically or just talent-wise, given the physical nature of the sport, the goal on that final spread is going to be larger than basketball or hockey or even baseball. So I think we should actually spin this and cherish the close games that we do get when you get to this level.
We don't thank this sport enough.
I agree with Chris Cody. And Dan, you're going to complain ourselves into a 32-team NCAA tournament style NFL playoff, and then it's going to be like a 40-week season, and the quality is going to get worse, and we're all going to be like, well, now we have too much football, just like we did with the first round of the college football playoffs. The system, I actually preferred the old NFL playoff system before they changed it most recently, but I may be in the minority there. But like, I think it's fine. We don't need more.
We get one more game. We get a Monday nighter.
I enjoy watching one game at a time. Okay, I'm anti-red zone.
An isolated game.
Yeah, I mean, my wife's watching red zone. It's like a flurry of it's overload of information, going from one game to the next, and then back to here and back to there. Red zone's showing plays that aren't even in the red zone. It's a misnamed network.
You got to get a feel for the game, the subtle little nuances that happen during the game, the momentum changes, all of that stuff. You don't get that on the red zone.
I want to slip into the rhythm of a game. I want to see every play, even the bad plays.
Yep.
I want to see a guy take a knee. I want to see a timeout. I want to see a motion penalty. I want all the minutia of a game, not just the highlights.
Didn't you like when red zone would show you non-red zone plays?
You know what? It was a breath of fresh air. I will admit that. I think red zone should show you the worst plays as well.
This is confusing.
Red zone should.
You like all the commercial breaks
outside the red zone,
Greg? I have a good idea for you, Greg. We should start our own network called All the Other Plays.
You know what?
All the minutia.
I want
between the 40s.
I want a network that shows me the shank punt. The shank punt.
Shunts.
Yes.
Careful.
All punts. That would be a good.
The all punt
Why
network.
not?
I like the APN.
Wanstead would be addicted to it.
He would be.
Can I ask Chris Cody a question here? I thought of you yesterday, Greg, Chris, I'm sorry. I thought of you because something happened to me. I am peeling a banana in the kitchen, and I'm about to throw away the peel. And as I do so, I drop the rest of the banana on the floor. What do you do?
This is your home kitchen?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a Three Stooges skit.
I'm picking it up, and I'm giving it the old once-over, and I'm looking at it, and if it passes the eye test, I'm eating it.
Are you a shoe household?
That's just very important.
I don't wear shoes in the house, no.
Do you wash your feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Do your cats?
Well, this is the thing. I threw away the banana because I have pets.
Oh, yeah.
And I do, but my floors are cleaned twice a week. So like this is not
Twice a week. Huh?
This is not it's not a dirty floor, but I felt guilt about throwing away the banana because it's a perfectly good banana and it's fallen on the floor. But my instinct was to try and catch it, and my first thought was I'm just going to eat this, and then I had to have the second thought of this is by a garbage can and it's near where the pets eat.
But do the cats wear shoes? You didn't answer the question.
The cats do not wear shoes.
Do you go Monday, Thursday, or Monday, Friday cleaning day? What's the deal?
Right, you're breaking out the mop 2 times a week.
Friday and Monday.
It looks so cute when they have shoes on. It's like, well, I walk.
I know. Like a sweater on a cat. Come on, get out of here.
Unless I'm in like a really disgusting place, it shouldn't surprise people. I don't get afraid of a little I'm gonna say dirt, but I will eat things if it passes the eye test.
Peck of dirt before you die.
That's exactly right.
I follow the 5-second rule.
No,
I knew you were going to get immediate buy-in.
Nana Doogie. I mean, come on. God rest her soul.
Yep.
But the banana is sticky, okay? The banana is going to pick up lint and dirt in a way that
You're right.
that hard shell
Right, if it was like
apples
an
and
apple,
pears
you'd
will
be
not.
fine, yeah.
Exactly. So what you do here is you pick up the banana, you give it a rinse under the faucet.
Ooh, a rinse.
Then you roll it very carefully, gingerly, in paper towels.
You can't rinse a banana, dude.
Yeah, you can, but then
No.
you gotta
Yeah,
dry
can.
it. You gotta dry it.
It's his banana.
Really?
Feels like it's got a sponge material.
You don't want to eat a wet banana.
No.
Okay, nobody
Ever.
wants to eat a wet banana.
What if it's like one little peck of dirt on it? Do you give it a little?
You can. Yeah, I've done that. Peck of dirt before you die is a real thing. And a peck's a big vessel as well. So
Shockingly.
people worry too much about germs and everything. I'm not the guy wiping off my thing at the cart.
You clean your fruit?
Not always. No. No.
So you're blowing on a wet banana, Greg?
I wouldn't blow on a wet banana. I would wrap it in a paper towel to dry it.
Put it on the
Once
poll,
over.
please,
Yeah.
Juju at Le Batard Show. Would you eat a wet banana? And also put on the poll at Le Batard Show. You've dropped a banana outside of the peel on the floor. Do you eat it or do you throw it away?
It's a wordy poll.
It really is.
You have to put on there, cats don't wear shoes also.
Also, do you got to eat a peck of dirt before you
Well,
die?
this is the thing that I wanted to get to because
Yeah.
the fact that Greg Cody and Billy just did the musical dance of Billy goes, I just imagine someone listening for the first time, and Billy says, peck of dirt before you die. And Greg Cody's like, exactly.
I mean,
What about a peck of norovirus?
No one's ever responded that way to a peck of dirt.
Well, because he was going to say it, and Billy said it first because they have such rhythm between them. Usually on Tuesdays, but today we're getting lucky on a Monday.
it's a beautiful thing.
Where Billy is quicker thinking of. Greg was going to say it. He had it loaded up. I saw him. He had it loaded up.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
on delay,
Cocked
yeah.
and loaded.
Now,
Cocking it.
will you
Thank
explain?
you.
Want to explain to the audience again for those who do not know what a peck of dirt and Nelly Doogie,
Yeah.
what the whole thing is, so that
Sure.
those who might not have understood the back and forth that you guys had for just yourselves.
Right. That was my grandmother on my mother's side, Nellie Doogie. God rest her soul. She'd been gone a long time. She died in like the late 60s, I think. I barely remember her. Big, heavy woman. And one of her sayings was, "You got to
Like
eat
Julia Childs.
you got to eat
Smoker.
a peck of dirt before you die."
Is she a chain smoker, Greg?
I thought a peck was more, honestly. It seems like it's only 2 gallons.
Well, still, picture
That's a
2
lot of
gallons
dirt.
That's a lot of dirt.
Yeah, but no, she died. She went to her grave referring to it as sugar diabetes. Everybody now just calls it diabetes. But she was a woman who never went to a doctor. It was a sad story because she died fairly young. She was in her early mid-60s, like 63-ish. But peck of dirt before you die didn't serve her particularly well. But as a general life rule, I think it's something that I'll
So hold on
follow.
a second. So I just want to be clear. The person who advised you have to eat a peck of dirt before you die died early because she ate a peck of dirt.
Well, no, she
No.
ate sugar, a lot of sugar.
Sugar diabetes.
I never went to the doctor.
Yeah, and here's the
She
other
would have
thing.
more served eating dirt, honestly.
I don't. It sounds like I'm bragging when I say this, but in effect, her coining the phrase "eat a peck of dirt before you die" was the forerunner of what we all know now as the 3-second rule. So in effect, just like my mother invented the handheld fan.
Not true.
Did she?
My grandmother invented the 3-second rule.
What's your mother's name, by the way? It's escaping. Ruth.
Yeah, Ruth Doogie.
Put it on the poll,
No
please.
middle name either.
Juju, are
Really?
we
I don't like that.
still making Ruth's? What don't you like? No middle name?
I like commitment. Let's get a middle name. My wife doesn't have a middle name. Why can't we decide?
Well, do you guys know that Zane Gonzalez? Zane can't be his name, right? Like it's not his name.
It's insane.
There are not Zanes and Gonzalez's. That
No.
can't be.
The Old West was full of Zanes.
Wait, if Zane is his name, Dan, Billy Zane for your game.
Have a chop.
First name, last name.
His name's Holden.
Yep.
I'd go with Zane.
Holden Gonzalez.
But he's not the holder.
No.
Lewis
is Zane's short
Lewis is telling me in my ear that his middle name is Fortunado.
Confirmed.
He was
Fortunato.
yesterday.
I was afraid to say it.
Is that what happened? You looked it up? You
know how to
looked
say
it up and didn't know how to say it?
I was intimidated, yes.
You said it like Count Orlok.
So you could.
Fortunado.
He did, yeah. Scary the way he said it.
Yeah.
You will obey.
Zane's a lot easier.
It is. I don't know how Holden Fortunato became Zane. How did that happen?
I know how. He goes by the name Zane as a result of his father Joseph discovering the name in the movie Maverick, where James Garner's character was named Zane.
It's a
That's what I'm
great
saying.
flick.
Great
It's
movie.
an Old
Great
West name.
The
Yes.
chemistry
Oh, yeah.
from Jodie Foster and Mel Gibson it bubbles off the screen.
And James Gardner is a classic.
Well, was he in the original Maverick, the source material, and that was kind of like a callback among generations?
I think it was. Yes.
Wow.
I think you
What
got
a
that right.
flick.
I got a call on late Saturday night that I was not expecting after receiving a text that I was not expecting that I believe to be the only text of this kind that has ever been sent, ever in the history of people texting. My mother, late Saturday night, about 11 p.m., writes me, "Are you watching Columbo?"
Ah, Columbo.
There's evidently a marathon from 8 to midnight that her and my father watch every Saturday of Columbo.
So good.
Wow.
Do you know what episode it was?
I do not. There was,
Do you watch
I
these
was told
marathons?
it was chili con carne. There were some updates, but it was 4 hours. It wasn't an episode. It was many episodes. There cannot have been another person in 2025 writing or receiving the text, "Are you watching 70s detective show Columbo?"
I literally texted my boyfriend like 2 days ago. It's Columbo time.
Wow.
Is that what you guys call it?
What is Columbo time? Do you do this Saturday night marathon as well?
Unfortunately, I was watching the Steelers game, but no, it's on streaming now. I can just turn on Columbo whenever I want. Pop on any old port in a storm. What a great episode! Put on my little jammies. Oh, my boyfriend's mom got me these really comfy, cozy socks for Christmas. Oh, put those on. Get under the covers. Pop open my iPad. Do some online shopping while I watch Columbo. That's Columbo.
Fast
time.
channels are the best. I love fast channels, and I know they're growing in popularity. We're available on quite a few of them. But now you have fast channels that are just, it's Walker, Texas Ranger, 24/7. Get your fill. And you can just put it on in the background and be entranced by these things.
What's a fast channel?
Fast channel is essentially, so they live on streaming platforms. We're available on the NBC
question.
Fast channel. We're available, obviously, on DKN, which is a fast channel.
Yeah, obviously.
You
Right.
go to a smart TV or a streaming platform, piece of hardware, and many of these, like Roku has their own fast channels. They present their own lists of, it's basically, we're going back to cable television within the streamers.
Sure.
But it's devoted to, usually, because they can have like hundreds and hundreds of fast channels that they provide. It's usually devoted to a certain genre. So you have like a thriller channel, or you have a straight up Baywatch channel that's just Baywatch all day, every day. You have Walker, Texas Ranger all day, every day. You get Jag all day, every day.
Columbo.
The Greg Cody show needs a fast channel.
I was thinking, Greg, you and I are so aligned today. I was thinking just that. Don't you guys have video from all your episodes? You should sell your library to a streaming service and just have 24 hours
We
of Greg.
should. Christopher, get on that. Make a call. Do something about it.
Dan, you reminded me. Speaking of Columbo, Steven Spielberg directed the first ever episode of Columbo. I happened to be walking down the street last
Really?
week, 2 weeks ago in New York, I saw Steven Spielberg walking his dog. How funny is that? And then I was in Whole Foods later, and I saw Michael Imperioli. Oh, what a Saturday in New York.
Wow.
All the stars were out.
That's great. Did you go up to them and say hello? What a cute dog.
Of course not. I'm playing it so cool. I see Steven Spielberg, I'm walking past him, and then I'm going, that's Steven Spielberg.
The dog does give you an in, though.
Yeah, it does.
Right? Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's the ultimate conversation starter.
Right.
You know, if you're trying to pick up a woman or a man and they're walking a dog,
Steven
you're
Spielberg?
Hey, what a beautiful dog. And then you're in. Yeah, that's it.
Is Jess trying to pick up Steven Spielberg?
People love your dog to be complimented. You know what I'm saying?
You think Steven
compliment
Spielberg
my dog? They're my best friend.
went home and told whoever's at home, I saw Jess today. When I was walking the
That's
dog.
right.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Greg Cody today hasn't been the same, Stugotz. I don't know if you saw him. He came in a bit disheveled. He came in a bit discombobulated, disoriented because...
But in a new shirt.
In our parking garage here, 2 valet guys crashed into each other.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
You're acting as if you're surprised by it. You're the one who told me.
I'm oh my godding at the memory because it was not just a little fender bender. It was bam. It was one of these metal on metal. And I would guess that both of them were going like 20 miles an hour, which is pretty quick.
That
for a
can't be
parking
right.
garage.
That's
No, Dan, in this parking lot. Is it bad that I'm not surprised by this news? In fact, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often.
Was it on the ramp?
It was on a corner, yeah.
Oh, God.
It was taking a corner.
You know how I know Carson Beck will be fine in Miami? Because he has a Lamborghini. He probably doesn't know how to drive it either.
He'll fit right in.
A Lamborghini.
But you were
Imagine that.
surprised to hear that, Dan? Like 2 valets getting in an accident in this garage. The corners are tight. They usually honk when they're coming around the corners. And I appreciate that because they're letting me know that they're coming. But I'm not surprised by it.
There are mirrors there to help you, and they are the valets. It is their primary responsibility to not crash those cars. It's their job.
Valets love to take a good joyride, man.
Valet's primary job is to see what this thing can do.
How do you play this? Do you wait till the person comes back for their car to tell them, or do you try to reach out to them, or you just put it on?
I think you just are like, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Hope they don't notice.
No, you come out and you're like, that was there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's cameras everywhere, right?
No, cameras, can I tell you something about cameras? They never work when you need them. There's never a camera who you would benefit from functioning that is actually functioning, or they'll just tell you that camera doesn't work. Anytime I've been in peril and I've needed camera to support that I was a victim of said peril, the camera was disconnected. It wasn't working. It was pointing in the wrong direction. That camera doesn't record. It's only a live feed. The cameras never work when you need them.
Same within Columbo.
Mm-hmm.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju at Le Batard Show. Is the valet's primary responsibility just to see what this thing can do at Le Batard Show? Yesterday during the game, during the Philadelphia game, and I was a little surprised to see the Packers not be able to do anything. But I suppose, given how injured they are, they're the youngest team in the league. And they didn't beat anybody good this year. And so they get to the playoffs.
Dolphins would like a word.
And they get to Philadelphia, and Philadelphia rolls them. During the game, after Juju gave you the 3-leg parlay of McConkey over 4.5 catches, Pickens over 3.5 catches, and A.J. Brown over.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, he didn't get it on A.J. Brown. But A.J. Brown during the game, I imagine Philadelphia is tired of A.J. Brown. It's been a little bit confusing to see A.J. Brown not be super dominant.
I don't care what Philadelphia is tired of. I'm tired of their fan base. How does that sound? They wanted to fire Nick Sirianni like a month or 2 ago, and now they're all celebrating Nick Sirianni. He is the greatest coach in Eagles history. I said it. Better than Andy Reid, better than Dick Vermeil. This is the 4th consecutive season he has led this team to the playoffs. He's the only Eagles coach in Eagles history to do that for first 4 seasons going to the playoffs. He was a play away from beating Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl. I don't care about what Philadelphia fans think about anything. And I'm talking to you, Spike Eskin, and I'm talking to you, Angelo Cataldi. I don't care what you have to say. You wanted to fire Nick Sirianni 35 days ago, and I'm not going to allow you to celebrate Nick Sirianni moving forward. How about that?
Wow, it's been announced.
Yeah.
Roy,
Wow.
you saw it.
I don't even know if Cataldi's still on the air. I have no idea.
Well, I don't think Spike Eskin is there,
Spike
is he?
Eskin is there. He went from WFAN. I was going to take his job as the program director, and now he's doing afternoon drive. How about that? Howard Eskin to Spike Eskin. No nepotism there. I mean, nothing to see.
Burt Bell was pretty good, Stugotz. Pretty good Eagles coach. He loved the
Burt
Eagles so
Bell?
much he
No.
had a heart attack because he couldn't stay away. His doctor was like, stop going to Eagles games. You're going to
Right.
die. And then he couldn't stop and he died.
But there is something pretty ridiculous about seeing Eagle fans now celebrate Nick Sirianni when 2 months ago they wanted him fired. They did. They were yelling at him at home games.
I know, but Stugotz, the sports fan, is
No, that sports fan.
emotional and not
Irrational.
not shackled to consistency or the rigidities of having to stay on the same path all the time.
You know what I would give for Nick Sirianni to be my coach? You know what I would give for the last 4 seasons of the Eagles? Anything. Anything. Like a finger.
Does Stugotz have it right when
Thank
he
you.
says that Sirianni is better than Andy Reid? Because I don't think that's accurate. Justin Herbert has more passing yards than any quarterback ever through 5 seasons. Hasn't won a playoff
Yeah,
game.
means
Has the
nothing.
same number of playoff wins as Tua does. And I look at Justin Herbert and I say that winning is not a quarterback stat. I look at Justin Herbert and I think that him having more passing yards than any quarterback ever through 5 seasons means that he's a good quarterback. But I would not proclaim him based on that statistic. What Harbaugh is saying of him, that Justin Herbert is already an all-timer in terms of skill set. When you say Sirianni, the criticism seemed fair to me of Sirianni. He's got a loaded team. He's got a team that all of us
48-20 with that team.
Yeah, and should be. Because
But he is.
and he has gotten to a place where he has put the standard at everyone knows how good that team is. It is one of the 6 good teams, right? Like we all know who the 6 good teams are, correct? We'd all have the same list for that, and whoever's 7 would be after, like, a good distance from what it is that we know. It's pretty rare for us to know this like this. It's pretty rare to have a bunch of teams that only have 2 or 3 or 4 losses. It's not a normal thing to see the Packers in that division not be able to beat anyone good, and when they go into Philadelphia, you're like, yeah, that's how that's going to go. Mm-hmm. They surprised me on the road at Dallas, but I know Philadelphia is good. I wasn't sure about Dallas, even with Dak Prescott and them having 13 wins that season. We all could have seen them losing at home or whatever it was. Whether they had 12 wins or 13 wins that season. Everyone listening to this knows Philadelphia is good and knows Philadelphia has been good for 4 years. And furthermore, don't give Sirianni the credit for that.
Right.
Like, don't look at that team and say that's because of Sirianni.
When you say 6 good teams, and we all know it, you're talking Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Eagles, Lions, Bengals.
Vikings?
I'm not certain if the Vikings are
Who is
any
the
good.
6th? I was like saying that back here. I assume it's
There's
the
5
Vikings.
definitive, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The Texans would be that? Like, who is that
So-
6th team?
so you
It would
guys-
be the Vikings.
I mean, so you guys are not buying on the Vikings? Like, you're not...
Not with those other 5.
No.
We'll see. I'll let you know after tonight.
Okay,
Right. Yeah.
fine. That's fine.
Pending.
I've done the same thing all season. I'm like, Sam Darnold's going to lose at the end. Fine, but they have been good all season.
They
Like
have.
there's not any disputing of that. The couple of times they played they played the teams that we think are good, they've played with them. Except the Detroit game at the end, I guess, probably changes your mind on the Vikings, right?
I mean, they're 14-3.
No, I think they're good. I just don't know if they're in that group of 5.
Very good, but I mean, it's a little bit different now that the game's been relocated to Arizona. But losing a road game to Sean McVay and the Rams, like, is there a great deal of shame in that? This is what everybody was kind of afraid of if Sean McVay got into the postseason.
Which is why I would have voted for him to get in if they didn't make it, if I was given the chance.
Bingo.
I would have kicked out the Vikings and just
Wow.
been like, Darnold.
Not the Bengals.
Wow, you're kicking out a 15-2 team, or were the Vikings 14-3?
14-3.
Really, really good team.
Yeah.
Their record in one-run games was fantastic.
Run games?
One score game.
One. What did I say? One
I know
run
what you
games.
meant.
Yeah,
Their record overall was 14-3, so it stands to reason.
Right. Well, that's true, but no. The point is, they didn't win that many routes. I don't think they played a lot of close games, but won them. That means something.
What was Minnesota's point differential? Can you give me the teams? Obviously, it's going to be those 5 that have the best point differential. But is Minnesota in there with those 5 in terms of having won games by big margins? What are the point differentials? The Bills have the biggest one, correct? Or is it the Lions?
The Vikings were plus 100. The Packers, just to put that into perspective, the Packers were plus 122.
I'm seeing Bills and Ravens both plus 157.
And the Lions plus 222. So that's ridiculous.
They're good. You read the reports because it's unfortunate that Minnesota has to go against the Sean McVay team on the road. The NFL's finally looking at this asinine rule that if you win a division, you host a playoff
Whoa,
game.
asinine.
I hate it about the NFL.
What?
Hate it about the
I'm
NFL.
with Mike.
All winning a division should guarantee you is a playoff spot. Home field advantage is so immense in that sport that I really hate it for a team like Minnesota that's been really good, but they just so happen to occupy the same division as the Lions that they have to go through this impossible path.
I disagree. I think this is why the division rivalries are so good, because winning your division gives you a reward that you wouldn't otherwise get.
I know,
but it's a reward still. It's just like no more home games for you.
But if you're Tampa Bay playing in a weak division, you have a leg up before the season even starts, as opposed to Minnesota playing in arguably the toughest division in football.
I think there's such an obsession with trying to even the playing field. Just the system's fine. It's fine. It's good.
But Greg,
you
in
don't have to
fairness,
keep trying to adjust things constantly.
right? In fairness, no one headed into the season. Everyone thought Lions, Packers in that division. It was not the Vikings. The Vikings were
People
supposed to
thought
be a
the
bad
Bears
team.
were going to make
Right.
the playoffs
Yes.
before
No,
the
that's
season.
true.
I had the Bears making the Super Bowl. I said that in Kansas
I'm
City.
very staunchly in the camp that you should only get a playoff spot, not host, but just be warned, this means for worse playoff games because the better teams are going to get home field advantage, and that usually, evens things out a little bit. I am pro more blowouts, I guess.
Billy, can you please update me on a couple of things, both your listener league and how the voting is going for the Sports Podcast Awards, that everyone in our audience should help God Bless Football win, because God Bless Football should win with or without your help, but you should help Billy and Stugotz win with God Bless Football, which is already award-winning.
Well, not just us. You can also help Pablo. You can also help David. There's a number of shows that are up for a Sports Podcast Award. And, guys, today's the deadline. So if you're listening to this tomorrow, it's too late. But I appreciate the effort. But if you're listening to this today, vote. And vote right now. Don't put it off, because these awards are held across the pond.
They're always listening to it today.
They're over there in England, right? And here's the thing. I don't know what time zones, we all know, are tricky, a situation there. I don't know what time the polls close. They close today, but is it England time or is it America time? I don't know. Just vote now. Just to try to be sure to get your vote in. So vote for us. Go to sportspodcastscoop.com. Now, you ask about the Listener League, Dan. How'd you do this week?
I didn't participate.
What do you mean?
Oh, why not? It's so much fun. I really think you would like fantasy, especially this fantasy. It's not like a commitment. Every week is a new roster. So you don't have to worry about it.
You can dress up if you want.
Yeah, that's true. You can. It has nothing to do with it at all. But if you want, you can dress
Just to
up.
make it more fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make a pact, all of us together. We're all going to participate next week.
Deal.
Pact?
Packed.
Dan?
Pinky promise.
Pinky promise. Mike,
Amen.
pinky promise. Dan, put your pinky around Stugotz's pinky.
When's the last time you pinky promised, Dan? Like
Yeah.
a legitimate one.
Are you shocked that it's
This
the
is
same
the
size
first
as all the
time.
other fingers?
Really?
Before your pinky touches my pinky, make sure you want to do this. You're committed to it?
I've
binding.
never before pinky promised.
Now you have to kiss
Okay,
the hand.
And you're
That's
married?
binding.
You have to do this.
I do it with
You
my
do the
wife all the
kiss.
time.
Exactly.
You kiss your thumb.
Right.
Yeah.
Stu, you have to okay.
Now.
Nah, it's
And now you kiss lips.
supposed to be the same time. Yeah, Dan, lean in.
Yeah, give the
Now,
internet
now you
that
guys
image.
are
Same time.
get your
Yeah.
timing. Go.
Give the
Come on.
internet that image.
Now you're married.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what song he's singing?
What song?
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
That is not a real song.
That's what song he's singing.
That is not a song.
He just made one.
You made that up, and it is not a real song.
Okay. Thank you, thank you, Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I'm undefeated, never lost.
I know which one
I
is
bet you
your
don't know
least
which one my least favorite. Tell me which one it is.
It's the middle one.
What? Jello?
Yeah.
That's the best one. Thank you, thank you.
That is not a real song.
Thank you, thank you.
That is not a real song.
Thank you, thank you.
That is not a real song.
Thank you, thank you.
That is not a real song.
I saw a good stat. LaMelo Ball is taking more shots per minute than anyone in basketball since Wilt Chamberlain in 1965.
What?
And not a single one of them is a shot that anyone's going to remember because he's doing it at the nowhere regional franchise ruined by Michael Jordan.
He's getting his, though.
He is getting his. More shots per minute than anyone since Wilt Chamberlain. Billy, you never finished saying what you were supposed to say about the Listener League. You just kept talking and then didn't say what needed to be said, which is...
That happens.
Oh, about God Bless Football, that you can join GBF's weekly contest at dkng.co/Smirnoff, presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly. That's about a weekly contest. You guys did the pinky promise. You kissed fingers, and now you guys are in it together.
Chris Cody, you never finished telling us what the origins were of willy-nilly and how it is that became a phrase.
The term willy-nilly comes from the Shakespearean expression will-ye-nil-ye.
That there's just no way.
What?
I have more questions.
How do you spell that?
Will, Y-E,
Yep.
nil, Y-E.
Got it.
Stugotz, you never got off when we were talking about Mike Vrabel, your hot Mike Vrabel take.
Big Mike Vrabel. What has he ever done? Seriously, I want to know the amount of coaches who have gone 13-21 over 2 seasons in the NFL, because that's how Mike Vrabel finished in Tennessee. And he was 2-3 in the postseason, and he's 0-2 in his last 2 postseason games. We are talking about Mike Vrabel like the Patriots just signed Vince Lombardi to be their head coach. What are we doing? I mean, Mike Vrabel might be the most overrated coach in NFL history. I know he took the Titans to the playoffs. I know they went to 1 AFC championship game and lost that game. And he's coming off, he's fresh. He took a year off and all this. Mike Vrabel is not this great coach that the Patriots and everyone else is making him out to be. He's not, Dan. He is 13-21 in his last 2 regular seasons. Didn't make the playoffs in Tennessee in a weak division. He is an overrated coach. And the fact that we're treating him like Hank Stram is absurd.
Then again, I wonder if Patriots fans were saying the same thing about Bill Belichick, who had a similar record in Cleveland before going to the Patriots.
Roy is just delighted because there was a Hank Stram reference.
I did it just to say Hank Stram. I mean,
did it for me.
I do in general.
I mean, what are we doing?
Well, hope trafficking. I would say, generally speaking, very often we put too much importance in whomever is the next leader who's going to fix everything, whether he has a quarterback or not. Drake May, it's a good spot, because I think most people believe that Drake May is going to grow as a quarterback.
It's the perfect spot, and here are the stages of Vrabel. If Drake May is not a good quarterback, Vrabel didn't select him. It's not Vrabel's quarterback, so he'll get a pass for like 2 or 3 years before he starts taking some accountability for how mediocre of a coach he is.
Why do you think that he's going to develop Drake May also? What did he do for Ryan Tannehill?
The question is, who are they going to hire to be the offensive coordinator? Apparently Josh McDaniels, which...
I think that's a good take by you. I think that's well said. And
he was a bad head coach. I'm not saying he'll for sure be a bad OC with Drake May, but that's an important hire.
Most people feel good about their quarterback situation. They have 2 quarterbacks that I think you're right to get excited over. They have a high pick that they're not going to spend on a quarterback, so they can afford to move down. And I do think that you're quite right in that if you look at the record, his reputation kind of surpasses that. I think a lot of that is honestly the gambling aspect, and that bettors really trust Mike Vrabel and believe him to be a good coach because of his record as an underdog. Keep in mind the final moment that Tom Brady had at Foxborough Stadium. It was at the hands of Mike Vrabel going into Foxborough, taking down that dynasty in the New England Patriots. So it's probably outsized his perception, especially the way that it ended in Tennessee. I think you could see when they started stripping that roster, put Ray Carthon in charge, you knew that they were going in an opposite direction, and he was wise to kind of get out of there. But I hold him in high regard just because of what he's able to do as an underdog.
I would go further than that. I would say all of us believe that his teams play tough and hard, and he overachieves with teams that we didn't expect much from. And in that game that Mike is talking about, he exploited a rule while playing against Belichick that got them extra time and outsmarted a coach in a way that we're not used to seeing when it comes to, knowing how to milk
Belichick
a clock.
being outsmarted,
Made a coaching move that all of us were like, wow, great coaching move. But I think all of this stuff tends to be overstated in how it is that someone arrives anywhere. He's done it the perfect way, Stugotz. He's not actually following Belichick.
He's not following the guy. He's following, the guy who followed the guy.
What do we make of what Kraft is doing there, though? Because I get why you think Mike Vrabel's a culture builder, even though I'm pretty sure he took over a team that actually went to the playoffs the previous year. So maybe some of that's overstated. But they go from Belichick, all right, we got to purge ourselves of the greatest coach of all time, hit restart. We're going for one of his players, a guy that was on his staff. Okay, let's push him out after 1 year. Well, who are we getting? Mike Vrabel, who cut his teeth on this staff. And so it's just a prolonging guys that are Belichick disciples. So I'm a little curious at that part.
I'm not going to lie, though. A little excited about Old Home Week. Josh McDaniels, who we got on defense? Romeo Crennel? What's happening?
Cut his teeth. Help me with that, please. I don't know when, and forgive my ignorance here.
I think, Mike, you're right. In 2017, they lost the divisional round when Malarkey was still there. Such a great lesson.
Wow, Mike Malarkey took that team to the playoffs. Mike Malarkey.
I don't know. You guys know what cutting? I don't know what cutting your teeth means.
It's like popping one's cherry.
Isn't it something to do with the horses? I think.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but I think
right.
it has something to do.
But
with horses.
for the uninitiated, it means starting something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
Beginning.
I actually know what cutting your teeth means.
You know what I mean. Not most people don't, though.
I just don't know the expression. Like, is it a horse that cuts its teeth?
I'm seeing that it's like breaking through the gums, like a baby.
The baby's fur teeth breaking through the gums.
Ah, there you go. Mm-hmm. I also think the Shakespeare thing, willy-nilly being attributed to Shakespeare, not a big shock because I read, and I can't cite any other examples because all I did was read the headline, but supposedly there are 10 to 12 modern-day things that are still said that go way back to Shakespeare.
Dude, every
just
time
12? Only 10?
Billy,
yeah.
huh?
Was Billy Shakespeare just speaking gibberish? Because every time I go back and look up a phrase or a word, 40% of the time it goes back to just something William Shakespeare came up with.
There you go.
Did he just toss things out there and people are like, can you imagine? Why was he considered so great? The guy, he's essentially Dr. Seuss. He's just making words up, this crazy guy.
Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
He green eggs and ham.
Willy-nilly is Seussian, but apparently it does have Old English origins too.
Are you saying William Shakespeare is overrated?
I have a list of phrases here that are attributed to Shakespeare.
Go ahead.
My name is from Shakespeare.
Wild goose chase. Break the ice.
Imagine you hear Wild Goose Chase for the first time in your life, and you're like,
I kind of would get it. Like, that's well said.
Yeah.
In a pickle.
See?
Same. Like, imagine being like, in a pickle. What is that? Well, I guess, yeah. If I was in a pickle, then it'd be hard to do
I
anything.
feel like my skin's irritated.
I mean, he got first crack at this.
That's right.
Love is blind.
No, he didn't.
That was Netflix.
Green-eyed monster.
That's what my wife calls me.
Green-eyed
That's what my sister calls me.
Laughing stock. Fair play. A lot.
Yeah.
I thought
Not
Woody
a lot.
invented
That
fair
was me
play.
adding a lot. He did not create a lot.
Well, he might have. Look it up.
Right.
Put it on the poll, please. Was Willie Shakespeare overrated?
Babies are so funny when they don't have teeth, right? Yeah. They look so stupid.
I'm seeing swagger.
Put it on the poll as well.
You invented swagger.
Shakespeare did.
Shakespeare also coined the phrase, that kind of thing.
I just
You
want to
know
like
it.
put my little finger and then they like try to bite it, but they don't have teeth, and I'm
Don't
like,
have teeth. You
ah,
can't hurt me.
you can't hurt me.
Stupid baby.
Oh.
That kind of thing, or the you invented swagger?
Another thing that I have not yet brought to completion here, A.J. Brown, as I was mentioning before, was reading a book on the sidelines during the game and has posted on Twitter, because the name of the book is Inner Excellence. He is showing on Twitter that he's got a lot of passages highlighted and underlined, and he says, this game is 90% mental and 10% physical for me. I bring it to every game, this book, and I read it between each drive. I use it to refocus and lock in despite what may transpire in the game, good or bad. People tend to create controversy when they don't know the truth. I'm surprised that this was the first time we were seeing this, if he's doing it all the time between drives.
And it's obviously Look at Me, Louie, right? I saw someone posted a picture of one of the pages of the book, and it is the opposite of Shakespeare. Just like word salad about the pursuit of excellence and blah blah. I can't read it. It's too boring. I would read it on the show, but it's too boring.
I rolled my eyes when I saw it.
Did you? You tired of him?
No. I'm just like making sure that we all see you reading a book there. Plus, we all have those tablets on the sideline.
Yeah, most people just are reading a book on their tablet.
That's exactly what they're doing. When Jordan Love threw an interception, he went back to read Catcher in the Rye.
I wonder if there are any players listening to books on the sidelines trying to be sneaky with it.
Yeah, doesn't count. Christopher, what are you reading? I'm not used to seeing you read a book. What do you read other than menus?
Wow.
I did.
Quite the dig
Did
at
you
your son.
just set yourself up?
Wow.
He did. He did.
You set yourself up.
He set himself up for a joke.
At the expense of his son.
He threw himself an alley-oop
I
to
respect
dunk on
it.
his son with a fat
I
joke.
respect that.
Thank you.
That earns a promotion of Greg Cody's podcast, The
Wow.
Greg Cody Show, featuring Greg Cody.
It's a treat.
In this week's episode, stunningly enough, Greg Cody chronicles a chicken that lived for 18 months without a head.
Yes.
A literal chicken with his
Yeah.
head cut off.
Shakespeare
That's
created
right.
that as well.
A chicken named Mike.
I made that up.
Ah, Mike.
It's verified. I mean, he lived 18 months, Mike did, because the jugular vein wasn't decapitated, so he was able to sustain air or something. I don't know the details.
Right.
Okay, I didn't invent that. I just tell about it, and we talk about it. And
Why don't you know the details
you
if
already
it's
did
what's
it.
featured
Well, he doesn't
on your
remember the
podcast?
details.
Well, it's not featured. It's one of my 3 Facts Jack.
Ah.
It's a minor part of my
Gross.
podcast.
One of my favorite and finalies we ever did.
But
What,
we're on YouTube. Our YouTube channel
And the
is,
Fast
is
channel, too.
flourishing. Yeah, and we're getting over to the Fast Twitch channel. We're going to be on that before long.
Would you like to live without a head for any amount of time?
Put it on the poll,
It's a
Juju.
thought-provoking
Why are you staring at him like that?
Would you like to live without a head for any amount of time? It's an excellent question.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, but I
Right,
haven't given
I
it
mean-
much thought.
Well, if you're, but
Well,
if
you
you're-
couldn't.
That's true.
Hey, you have no head.
What did old Mike in, by the way?
He doesn't have any details.
I assume he was beheaded as part of the process that ends up with the rest of us eating chicken wings. But I guess his killer didn't decapitate him quite well enough, and he lived for 18 months.
You're just making all that up.
Well,
You
what
know,
I'm
not.
asking is what ultimately killed Mike if it wasn't the beheading?
I mean, eventually you don't have a head. What do you got to live for?
Right.
Oh,
How
so
did he
Can't
get
see the cars coming.
Lack of
Right.
water.
How did he get nutrients?
These are details that I am unaware of.
18 months without food or
That's
water?
a long time. And plus, where did he live? Like, who's keeping a headless chicken?
You
for
had him
18
on.
months?
No, I would
didn't
certainly
have
keep
him
a headless
on.
chicken.
I know.
We
You know
tried
what I
to get
mean.
him,
Right.
but he had died already. That'd be a good guess, though.
Couldn't speak even if he came up.
Mike the Headless Chicken. Coming up next on the Greg Cody Show podcast.
He seems to have survived because of a blood clot. Surviving because most of his brain stem remained intact and it did not bleed due to a blood clot.
Well said.
Okay. You don't get stuff like that on many podcasts.
How did he eat?
We didn't get it on yours either.
Well, yeah, you did. No, I went into some details.
That's so
blood clots
gross.
get a bad rap. This blood clot saved Mike.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, but it saved Mike without a head.
Well, but he had the rest of his body. People are looking at him. Nice wings.
I had a similar thing this morning. I had a cockroach pop out of nowhere in my kitchen.
Not
similar. And I had a shoe box.
Right.
And my way of going after the cockroach was just, it had shoes in it, so it had some heft to it. I just and I hit it. As it was scurrying away, I threw the box, landed right on him.
Nice.
I lift the box up, and he's like on his back, and he's like still alive. Like the arm was like
Oh, no.
and I just left him there.
Too bad.
Ew.
Just left him there.
But
For who to pick up?
He could be like Mike, is my point. That thing could still be there in my kitchen, still alive.
I know what happened to Mike.
What?
I have here how Mike passed away.
Okay.
In March 1947, at a motel in Phoenix, Arizona, on a stopover while traveling back from tour, Mike started choking on his mucus in the middle of the night. The Olsons had inadvertently left their feeding and cleaning syringes at the sideshow the day before, and so were unable to save Mike.
So he was they turned him into a circus animal.
They were feeding him with syringes to keep him alive.
Seems like they turned him into a zombie.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we got
So
to speak to Mike,
sad.
he'd say, "Someone please end this for
Oh,
me.
wow.
My
So-
life is filled with a great deal of torment."
That's what I'm saying.
One
yeah.
of the Olsons claimed that he sold the bird off, resulting in stories of Mike still touring the country as late as 1949.
Wow, the Olsen twins.
That's way too recent.
Mary Kate or Ashley?
Yeah, how about that?
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Is Mike a strange name for a chicken?
That's probably Michael.
Those cockroaches are tough SOBs, aren't they? I mean,
Oh God, they're the worst.
they're the worst. They don't die.
We hate them.
Yeah.
What's worse, the giant fat ones or like the little pervasive evil?
That was this
skinny
one,
ones?
little one.
Oh,
Guy.
those things, because those ones get everywhere. Not good.
Yeah, those are the Germans, the little ones.
Yeah,
Really?
apparently I thought they were Russian. Are
No,
they
the German cockroach.
He's right.
We hate the big ones. I don't like the big ones.
The flying ones are
Yeah.
the worst ones.
Yeah.
Those are the
Palmettos?
worst ones.
Yes.
Yes, those, of course, the flying ones are the worst.
I don't know. I'm less afraid of the flying ones.
Really?
I'm with you.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it's a bird. I don't know.
Right.
I
A
want to kill
bird.
it, but
You're less afraid of the flying
I'm
ones?
telling you, once you've had an infestation of the little skinny ones, your
The
life's-
Germans.
your life's changed.
Chris, so you left this cockroach on your floor?
I did. I was
that's
running
not
late, not going to lie. Running late this morning.
You couldn't be bothered for 2 more seconds to just properly kill it?
You leave it for your wife?
A little surprise for her. Hey, honey. I texted her. Hey, little surprise for you in the kitchen.
For the kid?
That's
It's
even
our anniversary
ruder.
tomorrow, so.
Literally
course it is.
divorce. Like
Happy
I
and
would,
nice
I
of
would
you.
leave Lehman if he did that to me.
You leave the dead one to send a message to the other
Yes,
The
I was gonna
gag.
say I've done that before, where I've taken a cockroach out from inside my house and left it on the doorstep, so that they know if they come into this house what's awaiting them.
It's a message? Mm-hmm. Right.
Divorce.
But this one was alive,
It
Chris
was
is
just-
saying.
it-
Maybe.
It was on its back, though, so
Right.
it wasn't going anywhere. It was just doing
It
its
could
thing.
flip over.
That's cruel.
Yeah, they can. They
Does
can flip over.
everyone listening to this, and because forgive me, I don't know what's regional here, what's national, and what's international. Am I surprising anyone in our audience with the idea that there is a flying cockroach, or is that something that's that is global? Does everyone listening to this know that there's such a thing as the cockroach that flies? I don't know the answer to my own question. Perhaps we could look it up. We can answer it at the end of this segment when Stugotz is done with his weekend observations.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations are brought to you by Miller Lite. Dan, there was a time when they were the toast of the NFL. Their offensive line was nicknamed the Hogs. Their receivers were nicknamed the Smurfs. And their kicker won an MVP. But their last playoff win was in 2006. Since then, Tom Brady won 3 Super Bowls and the iPhone was invented. But last night, everything, and I mean everything, changed because they found their quarterback, and that quarterback is poised. And man, is he good. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, from the nation's capital, the Washington Commanders are back.
Would you sign Jayden Daniels right now? Would you try to give him giant money, even though the game in football lately
You have
has
him on the
been-
rookie contract,
Yeah,
though.
have value at quarterback. Yes, but like I'm curious there whether they offer it and whether he would take it.
Why would you do it now?
Just because you know you've got a great quarterback and you would be able to have him at value for a while if you did it now, whereas 2 or 3 years from now it might be more complicated to have him at value?
They wouldn't offer it, but I do believe he would take it because you have no idea what's going to happen to yourself in 4 years. He could get hurt, right?
I don't think you can re-sign him this quickly, like rules-wise. I'll look into it.
Jordan Love has been downgraded to Jordan-like.
It's not fair. They had so many people hurt.
Like it best.
Yeah, it's good.
Jordan-like. Dallas Goddard, stiff arm. My God. Dan, the G in Goddard stands for grown-ass man. I mean, Jesus Christ. God, he's good.
He's just another. When he takes his helmet off, he's one of these people, another one of these Frankensteins where you're like, what is anyone supposed to do with that running across the middle?
Justin Herbert is the Patrick Mahomes of Ryan Tannehill's. You can't spell INT without the INT in Justin. This Justin, the H in Herbert, stands for horrible. See what I did there?
Yeah,
This
I did
just
see
in.
it. Yeah,
Right,
this just in.
Writer, a couple of writers there. Yeah. I'm taking the T from Herbert and moving it behind the N in Justin and making it silent. So now his first name is spelled Justin. And if someone asks whose fault it was that the Chargers got bounced out in the first round of the playoffs, the likely response would be, oh, it was Justin's. Now spelled Justin apostrophe S. Justin Herbert, the fourth.
After the third year is when you can negotiate rookie deals.
He left in 2014, yet every time I turn on a Marquette basketball game, I'm surprised the person not roaming the sidelines is Buzz Williams. I don't know if I said that correctly or not. I was so proud of my Justin jokes. Hey, Greg McElroy. Am I saying that right, Dan?
No.
McElroy?
Yes.
That guy.
It's such a strange dyslexia.
I can't say it.
It's just there.
Always the second try.
Do me a favor. Stop talking about NFL accuracy when you don't know a single thing about NFL accuracy.
Man.
I mean, I'm sorry, he doesn't.
Come on.
College accuracy, maybe, but not NFL. Dan, he's not qualified. It'd be like Tebow doing it. But Tebow was better. He won a playoff game. Broncos. Remember that?
I do remember that, yes.
Spags, I care about you. Don't do it.
Don't do what?
Jets coach.
You skipped that one.
Even though, I have to be honest, it would be great. If we're going to be bad, I might as well be friends with a coach. He's my friend. But because he's my friend, I care
Didn't
about
that
him.
end poorly between you and Adam Gase?
We haven't spoken in a while. Played golf and had a heater.
But then you ripped him.
Gase ripped a heater.
But didn't you stop talking because of how honest you were on the air?
Yeah.
He stopped talking because he couldn't get anything out of him.
Right. Yes. That's
The
exactly
succubus
right.
has moved on.
Yeah, he's no longer the
nothing.
coach. Like, what is
Nothing.
he?
Right,
What are you
give
going
me
to get him?
nothing. Right.
Maybe you stopped talking because of all the asks that you made.
Perhaps.
I mean, he works for Omaha. He works for the Mannings now. You could
The Manning cast, yeah.
you could be someone who can still get stuff from him.
Bug eyes Gase.
Well, Gase doesn't want to give anything up. Round of golf, a heater. The best recruiter Miami has is Hannah Cavender. The U is Beck. Going 8-4 has never been so expensive. Jim Harbaugh. Blah, blah, blah. Jim Harbaugh. More like Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh.
Why is Matt LaFleur's seat never hot?
LaFleur.
LaFleur. Sorry, I said it wrong. But why is that seat never hot? Explain it to me. It's like Todd Bowles' seat.
Everybody was hurt.
I don't want to hear about hurt. Excuses, please. Everyone's hurt this time of year, Dano. Anyway. Joe Mixon, the rare running back who started his career as elusive and ended his career as a punisher. It's crazy. Joe Mixon's good.
I mean, Joe Mixon's been good.
Yeah. I thought of another annoying golf thing over the weekend, Dan. Practicing your putting indoors, going to play golf the next day, getting to the first green, and realizing the putter is still inside your house.
What did you do?
Use the hybrid.
What?
That's all I had.
Were you on a one-some? You didn't have any ones you could borrow?
No, I'm a lefty.
Oh.
The old flat stick, Dan.
You couldn't go back home? Or?
No.
Obviously not,
Who does
Dan.
that?
Come on.
Obviously, Dan doesn't play golf.
I'm already on the course.
That's a 6-minute golf cart ride.
It's 4.
Is it the Jets golf cart? Is your tricked out your Jets golf cart, or is it a different golf cart?
No, it's still the Jets one. It's getting old. I'm thinking about the Bills. Man.
Yeah, Bill's golf cart.
I really am. When Josh Allen gets to a third down, he has you right where he wants you. Mike Vrabel, back in New England. Vrabes. That's all I got.
That seemed not worth writing. That seems like an
Doesn't need to be
observation
in there.
not worth making. I mean,
Vrabes, I mean. To the pint of Baskin-Robbins pralines and cream I purchased at Publix on Friday night. If I'm being honest, and I never am, I knew it was going to be a one-night affair the second I laid eyes on you.
you ate the whole thing in a night?
Oh, pralines was great. Oh,
They're good. I love.
pralines
I
and cream
love
is my
pralines.
favorite. Yeah.
Underrated treat, pralines.
Oh, so good. You were great, by the way. Just me, or does D'Angelo Russell just keep getting traded back and forth from Los Angeles to Brooklyn? It's the only two teams he played for. I know he played for the Timberwolves. People are going to correct me, but it's Brooklyn to L.A., L.A. back to Brooklyn, Brooklyn to L.A., L.A. to Brooklyn. They're the only two teams who want him. He's a trade chip. He's not even a basketball player.
Swaggy P says he's a traitor. Swaggy P told him get the hell out of town because of all of their past together.
When did taking your dog everywhere become a thing? Your dog doesn't need to go to the grocery store.
Here, here.
It's enough. Leave it at home. Here come the Red Wings.
How about that Bruins-Panthers game the other night?
Wild.
That's crazy.
It was at 1 o'clock.
Bruins.
1 o'clock.
Matinee.
Springboard into the to the playoffs.
SMU women's basketball was up 49-18 at halftime against Pitt and lost 72-59. You know what that is, right, Dan?
I don't know.
It's
what
a tale of two halves.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I should have known what that was.
Conference is legit.
They went on like a 28-0 run.
It's crazy.
Georgia Tech, Notre Dame this week inside the ACC.
Oh, nice. Kyle McCord was born to be an NFL backup quarterback that you could talk yourself into winning a late season spot start. The K in Kyle stands for clipboard. Jake Elliott playing with fire. And that's all I have. Taylor. Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen next week. Winner should be hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. Except this winner goes to Kansas City against the guy who has hoisted the last 2 Lombardi trophies. This is not fair.
It isn't.
It really isn't. They are playing the game of the season. Lamar versus Josh. It should be for everything. And it's not. It's just the right to go to Kansas City and lose.
Hasn't it been this way like every year in recent years with the Bengals, Bills, and Chiefs?
Yeah. If Ohio State beats Notre Dame, Michigan is my national champion in my personal record book.
Really?
StugottsBook.com. If Notre Dame beats Ohio State, Northern Illinois is my national champion in my personal record book. StugottsBook.com.
I would give Thomas Hammock a ring. I'd give him 7 rings.
Didn't he pull aside Marcus Freeman afterwards and say, "This is how we beat you"? And he just gave him all his intel.
He claimed that he told him like on the phone, like, this is how we won. And Marcus Freeman was like, yes, Yeah, we know.
He cheated. It's cheating.
It's a really, really bad game from our whole offense.
Imagine telling a Michigan fan before the season you would beat Ohio State and Alabama this season and not make it to the playoff. Notre Dame versus Penn State. The rare game that started as a clunker that turned into a classic. That game was awful for 3 quarters.
It
Just
was
awful. And then it became a classic.
Jessica and Mike wouldn't let me have that last
Really?
week. When I didn't say it was awful. I didn't say it was awful. I didn't go awful, but I'm like, I don't confuse great games with great endings.
I just feel like you guys do a lot of the points equal good, no points equal bad thing in your analysis of good versus bad game.
We need to start a new character for Dan, the game police. Because just every time we come in here, every week, this game was good. This game, not good enough. This game was good for 5 minutes, and then not good, then good again.
But all the games he says are good. It's like, okay, someone scored more than 30 points.
Yesterday's games were not good. The last one was good. The weekend's football games were not good football games.
Agreed. I would have bet Alabama against either Notre Dame or Penn State. Should be Ohio State. Taylor. Would you take Alabama against Notre Dame?
No.
Notre Dame beat Georgia last week.
I don't want to hear about it. I mean, I asked you. I should want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't know why I asked you. It's unfair of me to ask you. I'm sorry I asked you.
I take back the question.
It's not a serious take.
What do you mean it is? I would take Alabama.
No one should take your advice then.
When your parents name you Jack Sawyer, you know what you were born to do? Play linebacker at The Ohio State University.
Or paint a fence.
Or paint a fence. You agree, right, Dan?
I do.
Ryan Day can scoot. You see him running down the sidelines? He's a good coach. He's going to get fired.
He is going to get fired, you're saying?
I mean, if he doesn't win this one.
Again, since December 21st, he's beaten 2 of the top 3 SEC teams and the number 1 team in the country.
Lost to Michigan.
Yeah, what's he done lately?
Houston Texans getting hot at the right time. Got to be honest, I like their chances against the Texans.
You're going to keep making that joke. You're going to keep calling the Kansas City Chiefs the former Dallas Texans. You're going to keep
doing
doing
Chiefs,
that?
I got to say Texans. I love screaming fake at my TV on a fake punt.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Do you love screaming fake at your TV at a fake punt? Boy, Sean Payton was feeling good about himself on that one, huh? Sean Payton, they had that queued up on television. Let's go right back to halftime after the Super Bowl halftime, and let's show Sean Payton's onside kick.
It was also Romo being like, I said he was going to do that. I said in the meetings he was going to do something crazy.
You know what's funny about that? How about Tom Brady yesterday trying to pull his best Romo? God, he stinks. Brady's terrible, but he's like, this is for sure going to be a pass here. Nope, as they ran the ball.
Are you guys all doing what I'm doing, where you're just like, stop talking? The next play's going. It's week 20 at this point. How does he not know this?
Yesterday he was like, I don't like when quarterbacks run the ball, and I almost passed out. I was like, what?
He's terrible. He's terrible. It's not even that he's mediocre. He's bad at it.
Steve Sarkisian is going to be haunted by that second down lost play from the 1-yard line for the remainder of his life. Sark. I like Sark, man. I wanted to see Texas win that thing, but that's what you get for not starting a Manning. When you have a Manning, you start a Manning.
You have to.
I mean,
didn't he get concussed in that game? I'm pretty sure he got hit pretty hard.
I don't know.
You were just busy penciling Alabama into the national title game.
You have a Manning, you play Manning.
A woozy Manning is
I'm
better
familiar
than
with
a
your
regular
work.
guy.
I'm sorry I asked you a question about the game, Taylor.
2 Midwest teams playing for a national championship. This is the SEC's version of hell. Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
I am curious. I know that many of you are, fed up with how much I talk about the violence in football. I saw yesterday there were a couple.
Baselli's going to call soon. You know that, right? Every time you do this, Baselli gets mad at you.
Yeah,
I mean,
but the reason I want to bring it up, okay, is just because, not just because of the amazing sort of word salad that I got yesterday, which is Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest and needed CPR. 3rd and 8 from the Bills' 44-yard line. The same thing happened with Al Michaels. Al Michaels was talking about the fires, and then he's just brutal, awful, loss of humanity and homes. 3rd and 4 from the Baltimore 34.
But got to keep it moving, Dan.
But when we're talking about the national championship game and the season of Jessica's life that can be made even more amazing if they pull an upset as what I believe will be a double-digit underdog by the time the game is played. It just seems wrong for Notre Dame to have to play 15 games, and because they've played 15 games, they've got 9 or 10 guys who are out with season-ending injuries, and the point spread in this game wouldn't be that if they weren't playing so many games. I'm watching Green Bay against Philadelphia. Philadelphia didn't play particularly well, but Green Bay is so hurt at the end of the season that it's like they got a guy on 4th and short or whatever, Heath, catching the ball, and he can't catch it in bounds because they've got so many receivers out. Like he's throwing. Jordan Love is throwing a normal 4th and 2 out.
It's Jordan-like.
I mean, Dan, I hear you, but that's the sport. Everyone's hurt at this time of year. I think some teams obviously have worse injury luck than others. Notre Dame, especially this season, they lost their left tackle on Thursday night. They lost their best player of the season in week 5. There is tons of attrition, and that's why having depth on these. That's why if you build a team just using the portal, and then all your starters get hurt, you're not probably going to make a deep postseason run. And so Notre Dame hasn't done that, and that's why they've been able to win in the postseason, because they've had a lot of players that aren't starters step in and make huge plays. Obviously, that can only take you so far. So maybe this Ohio State game would be a lot closer if both teams played 3 months ago with full strength. I don't know. I can't tell you that, but yeah, that's part of the sport, is that it's brutal and people get hurt all the time.
Jess, I was amazed to hear that Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame only have 4 transfers from the portal. 4. One of them obviously the quarterback, but 4.
Wait, you mean on this year's team?
Yes.
That's not true.
No, from this class, from last year's class, 4. That's not a lot, is it?
Wait, I don't get what you mean.
They're not reliant, to your point, they're not as reliant on transfers in the transfer portal as most teams have become reliant on that thing.
But I would also say that their starting quarterback is a portal player. Their starting wide receiver, they're starting Notre Dame's used the portal less than a lot of teams, but they've used it very wisely. I would say their kicker is a portal player. The guy that made the big play in the Georgia game, RJ Oben, was a portal player.
It's just impressive because Marcus Freeman, who is now flirting with the NFL, he has shown an ability to develop players.
They're flirting with him. I don't know if he's flirting back yet. I'll keep you posted if I hear that he is flirting back.
They would be so lucky.
But yeah, no.
It takes 2 to tango.
Player development is a huge part of the modern college football. You can't win a game with just patching, or a championship, when you have to play 4 postseason games, sometimes 5 postseason games to win, with just patching up holes. You have to have underclassmen that are able to start and be ready to play if their number's called.
I agree with.
This is the new and unimproved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. Gamble on by DraftKings.
Mike McCarthy has been fired. No surprises there, but now the Dallas Cowboys job is open, and I'm guessing that a lot of people would want that. Look at Greg Cody, was surprised by that. Greg Cody gave me a under his breath wow.
I mean, supposedly they, instead of firing him, they just declined to renew his extension.
Not fired, Dan.
I don't know whether that's parsing straws or whatever, but technically I guess he wasn't fired.
Wait a minute, is it parsing straws? Is it splitting hairs? What did
It's
you
both.
mean? What did you mean to say there?
Parsing hairs.
Okay. Juju is with us now. Always nice to have him to break down the show. Usually by this hour, Greg Cody is pretty tired. It's been a sprint, and so it becomes parsing hairs.
I'm full of vim and vinegar.
You are full of shit. Juju is with us now. Thank you for being on with us, Juju. What do we have today? What do you like? What don't you like? What is worth commenting on?
I'm going to get straight to the most interesting poll we've had in quite some time. You've dropped a banana outside of the peel on the floor. Do you eat it or do you throw it away? By the way, cats don't wear shoes also.
I know
78%.
No, my friend Juju. Juju is throwing this away 1,000 times out of 1,000.
Exactly. The fact that you would ask this question to your listeners, Dan, is hilarious to me in itself. But 78% of the audience says throw it away ASAP.
I wasn't really asking it to the listeners. I was asking it to the one lacking hygiene listener that happens to be sitting in the seat across from me. Because as soon as I dropped it, I thought immediately of him. I'm like, Chris would eat this, and I'm like, I cannot eat this. This is, but it is a clean floor. I will say that. Go ahead, Juju. What else you got?
I don't think those words go together, clean and floor. But neither here nor there. Do you have to eat a pack of dirt before you die? Damn, this was close as heck. 51% of the audience says yes. 49% say no out of 1,022 votes thus far.
Juju, I think you pronounced it pack, and I think it's peck. I think I understand why you would think it pack, but it's the way that Nanny Doogie said it was
Nana, not Nanny.
Oh,
that's a fine.
A peck. That's a fine for me. For
it
a
is
fine
a
on me
fine.
for the Venmo. I got to send the Venmo over.
Yes, it is a fine. I do too.
All right, get on Venmo.
Yes, I won't wait for the polls. I'll revisit some of the questions from the show earlier. I think that the point of the Steelers season where it went wrong, that people ain't necessarily documenting, as soon as these Hard Knock cameras came around, the season kind of went downhill. I don't think they got a win since HBO started following them, if I'm not correct.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And it wasn't just that they were losing all the games. It's being outscored by 66 points in 5 games and losing 4 of them by more than 14 points. You can't limp into the playoffs more limpy than that.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson went from, hey, you know what, he's pretty good again, to he's what we thought he was a couple of years ago. I don't think they scored more than 17 points in those 4 straight losses.
Right. Also, over the weekend, my brother Marcus Freeman, congratulations to a brother getting to the mountaintop, you feel me? But at the same time, I like to throw the red challenge flag on him not using Beijing in his hair, because I seen some damning photos over the weekend, and I know my brother Mike is the expert in this. I am just a humble servant, but I think that brother is using Beijing. Neither here nor there, because I salute my Beijing brothers and users out there, but a spade is being called a spade.
You sent me that this weekend. You had proof, investigative proof. You sent me some photographs that would suggest that it is that there's a little bit of fraudulence going on there for a man who does not need such fraudulence.
And I think that the Beijing brothers, hey, if you use Beijing, like when I get to that point, hey man, I might throw me a Beijing layer or lacquer or something, but I'm gonna promote it. I'm doing it. I'm gonna be like, bro, I'm not only the owner, I'm a client. You feel me? That type of energy. And so I think we need more people just to admit they out here on the gene. You feel me? Ain't no problem with it. Salute to Cooper.
The Steelers
The
Steelers are 1-5 since the in-season Hard Knocks debuted on December 3rd. Their one win is against the Browns. Holy God, was the rest of their schedule tough. The last one, I mean, like, we want to like throw shade at them. They played the Eagles, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bengals. The last, like, and then the Ravens again in the playoffs.
Fair.
Like it's hard to criticize them too much.
You're right about that, for sure. Also, over the weekend, I had one of the worst bad beats ever. It's not technically a bad beat because it has to be close to hitting our Thursday Thunder for this weekend. I think it's made a bad beat because now everyone, like, I was wanting A.J. Brown to get 5.5 catches, and now he's known for reading a book while I was needing 5 catches from him. It was just so sad. So I feel like that's a bad beat. I owe the crowd and the audience something for losing again. Thursday Thunder. You guys have my heart in your hands. Crush it. Thumbs up or thumbs down.
Juju, you do not have to take this as hard as you do.
Yes, I do.
No, you do
Yes, I do. This is serious. DraftKings is trusting us to give the people good picks, and I keep letting them down time after time. two out of three ain't
two
enough.
Two out of three, if they bet them individually, is good enough. 2 out of 3 is good, but it does hurt. That's not technically a bad beat, but it does hurt that game will be remembered as the game that A.J. Brown was reading on the sidelines when you needed him. He just had one catch, right? He didn't.
One catch. Oh, my goodness. Great cleats, though. Great cleats. I also think Billy was right as well early in the show where he was like, NFL Network is getting away with some tricks. I was putting my parlays in, right before I think Texans and Chargers, getting ready for it. Turned the TV on. I seen Steelers, Raiders, and for 2 seconds, my heart dropped to my stomach. But I realized what was going on instantly. But I think he is right. They got to cut that out. Y'all can't do that, man.
Dirty tricks by the NFL Network.
Exactly. Dirty tricks, man. Dirty tricks. And I think it was also just enough football from the weekend. A lot of the people from the audience said it as well. It's not that we need to overload all the time. It's just I had a good time watching the commercials. Like you said, you did, bro. I'm learning about new shows. I'm using the restroom more than once every 7 hours. So I think it was just the right amount of pace of football over the weekend.
I feel like the schedule is just so perfect that like the first 10 weeks of the season, I can't get enough red zone. But as we get into like the double digits late in the season, it's like I'm kind of like, I remember the last week of the season, I was just kind of like, all right, I'm ready for the playoffs. Like this red zone, it just wasn't doing anything for me. It's like that perfect amount of time that we have where it's like you're super excited about red zone, and then by the end of the season, you're ready for a few weeks of normal games.
You guys think I'm in the minority in that the overstimulation of just pounding you in the face with the witching hour, 8 or 9 straight games at 3:45, 6 of them are close. You don't think it makes it so that we are spoiled and entitled, and by the time we get to single games being played in a window, it feels insufficient compared to the usual gorging? I can't be in the minority on that.
I certainly disagree with you. I think you winnow it down. You get rid of all the lousy games between two bad opponents, and the games you're left with, 6 games in this case, all big. They're all large
and
games.
Like late in the
season,
everyone's sitting people late in the year, so it's like, oh, they're not even playing anyone.
But you can't hide the bad game. You can't hide the games that aren't close, though, and then you're stuck in the third and fourth quarter with a game you know is not going anywhere, and you've got nothing else. Okay, I'm whimpering about being spoiled.
I think as we get older, we find ourselves longing for nostalgia, and I was just nostalgic about, dang, I have a game every single night until Tuesday to look forward to. And that started last Wednesday with 2 fabulous NCAA games. I think, bro, this was the perfect weekend, and it's going to get smaller and smaller. So I loved it. Neither here nor there.
Hold on a second, Juju. Cody wants to get in here between coughs. He's stifling one. Hold on a second. Something's going to get belched out of his mouth. I'm waiting expectantly for an important thought.
In the playoffs, even the routes, even the bad games, because they're not close, have their own drama to them. Because it's an elimination game. So all of a sudden, oh my God, Justin Herbert, man, did he choke. All of a sudden, Mike Tomlin, is he in trouble for the first time in his career? If you lose in the playoffs, the stakes are big enough where even that becomes a dramatic game despite it being not close.
Right. And to echo that sentiment from YouTube, our YouTube audience, RX Damo says, the games were boring, but stakes. You feel me? And we had a couple of different opinions. Cloud Feet Creation said, feed him football. That's all he wants. So we got people all over the spectrum on that one. And to answer Stugotz's question earlier about Nick Sirianni, I think that I watched the Eagles play with Eagles fans pretty frequently, and I'm here to tell you, they were firing Nick Sirianni after the win yesterday, big bro. Like, there's nothing Sirianni can really do to appease these fans, because at a certain point, he start looking goofy. You know what I mean? Him and Jalen at the Super Bowl, when Jalen seemed to be the more mature of the two, and then arguing with the fans. It's been a couple of things that they think now, yes, our team is great, but if you attach a better coach with that and not quote unquote the goofball, you feel me? That I've heard people say, these are not my words. This is just I don't know anything or didn't talk to anybody, but the people who said this, they think that someone with an improved or Bill Belichick, they would make the Eagles legendary.
I mean, I don't think anyone would dispute that, right? If I gave Bill Belichick the Eagles, they wouldn't be worse. Right. I don't think anyone is thinking they'd be any worse. Juju, good seeing you. I thought we talked way too much football today. I thought I thought there wasn't enough Greg Cody silliness today either. But more Greg Cody tomorrow.
How about that?
Yes.
Wow.
You're gonna still be wearing the same outfit for the 5th straight day? Okay,
Yes.
excellent. Thank you, Juju.
Thank y'all.